spectrum. Now Harris comes in and parachutes. What Republicans should have done is push back against her, say, you are operating in bad faith. These guys down in Florida, they didn't have an agenda. They were just trying to shoot straight. We know what the left does. Republicans, you cannot take that bait. You've got to fight back against these people.
Yeah, you can't bend the knee. He's right. And we know who some of the crafters of the Florida curriculum are, like Professor William Allen of Michigan State. We also
black man, in case people don't know.
We also know who. We also know what the contents are. We talked about it, and I tweeted out Charlie Cook over at National Review posted the entire curriculum. So there's no question DeSantis is right about that. The one thing I would say about the interview, and you try to cover a lot of issues, so sometimes it's hard to weave in a motif, but the whole America's in decline and I want to reverse it is sort of a facsimile of Make America Great Again. And I still don't hear the unifying value proposition, the overarching theme of a Ron DeSantis campaign. And, frankly, I think DeSantis is a very talented, very smart guy. And I think some of the newly minted advisors around him are much less so. And maybe there's the disconnect. Mark, on the South Side, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Dan, you'll probably disagree with me, and that's okay. Should Trump be forced out of this race, I do not believe DeSantis will get enough of the MAGA vote to win. With that being said,
where would it go?
I think that's my next point. I believe if Trump's forced out of this race, it's only a prediction. I believe Kerry Lake jumps in, and he'll get behind Kerry Lake. That's my prediction.
All right. Thanks for the call, Mark.
Okay.
Coming up at 5:38, the takeaways from the Devon Archer testimony. What? A guy can't say hello to a guy can't say hello to his son's friends? What's wrong with that? 5:38.
They're only talking about the weather. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott. Good morning, Mike.
64 degrees, 5:31. Chinese state media says days of unusually heavy rain around China's capital, Beijing, have flooded houses, torn apart roads, left 20 dead, 27 are missing. Now, seasonal flooding in large parts of China does hit almost every summer, particularly in the semi-tropical south. 16 workers are dead in the collapse of a crane at a highway construction site in western India. The crane was being used for work on a bridge in the city of Thane, just outside Mumbai. Hunter Biden's former business partner claims Hunter Biden would sometimes put his father on the speakerphone while in meetings with business partners.
Devon Archer himself said that was an implication of who the big guy is.
Arizona Republican Andy Biggs, after the meeting, said Archer revealed Hunter Biden's family name helped Ukrainian natural gas firm Burisma's business when Hunter sat on the board. Democrats tried to downplay that testimony. A third indictment is possible for former president and 2024 presidential candidate Donald Trump ahead of the 2024 election, this time concerning efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election results. Congressman Byron Donalds reacts to the leading Republican candidate's continued legal woes.
This is the Biden administration and his hitman, Merrick Garland and Jack Smith, going after their political rival, and they don't like it because it stinks of two-tier justice. This is un-American in my view. We don't do this in our country. This happens in third world countries.
The former president also faces an indictment in New York City. Paul Reubens, an actor and comedian whose character Pee Wee Herman became a cultural phenomenon through films and TV shows, has died. Reubens' publicist says he died Sunday night after a 6-year private struggle with cancer. There will be a stronger pro-life law on the books in Indiana beginning today. Indiana's new abortion law, which protects babies in the womb after 10 weeks and stops outpatient clinics from offering abortions, takes effect today. The new law allows for some abortions, in some cases up to 20 weeks. Chicago police report 37 teens were charged after a reckless gathering ensued in the city's South Loop on Sunday night. Triple the transfer tax on homes that sold for more than $1 million. And there could be some movement in the Leinenkugel strike today. Some of the striking workers at Leinie's Chippewa Falls Brewery in Wisconsin will finally sit down with company leaders. 40 workers at the plant have been on strike for 3 weeks. The union wants more money and other concessions. Company says it's made a generous offer. This is the first strike at Leinenkugel's since the 1980s. Cubs on a 2-game losing streak following a 6-5 loss to the Reds at Wrigley Field, and the Cubs make an infield upgrade at the trade deadline, getting former Cub Jahmyr Candelario back from the Nationals for a couple of prospects. The news, a service of Salem Surround, a local digital marketing agency. Go to surroundchicago.com today. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
The best conversations happen with a cigar in one hand and a fine drink in the other. Join Dennis Prager live in Chicago for Cigar Night on Thursday, August 24th at Klein Creek Golf Club in Winfield. Presented by Wilkins Mazda and Wilkins Hyundai in Elmhurst. Dennis will be joined by AM 560's Dan Proft and Sean Thompson for an evening of cigar smoking and good conversation. Tickets are on sale now at 560theanswer.com/cigar. Sponsored by healthinsurancementors.com and by Blue Star Security.
Do you really want to take shots the rest of your life just to lose weight? NJ Diet's typical results are twice as fast as weight loss injections without any of the side effects. Plus, you learn proper portion control and develop healthy eating habits. With NJ Diet's 40-day program, you'll lose 20 to 40-plus pounds, contractually guaranteed. Lose weight quickly the healthy and natural way with NJ Diet. Locations in Skokie and Oak Brook. Call 855-5-NJ-DIET or schedule your consult today at njdiet.com. That's njdiet.com.
This is Dennis Prager. Now you can listen to my show when it's convenient for you and without censorship from big tech. Become a member of the ultimate online community for all things Prager. It's Pragertopia Unlimited. Listen to every radio show over the last 10 years, all commercial free. You can even listen to all my Torah teachings for free. Join today and save 25% off the first year and get a free Pragertopia coffee mug. Go to Pragertopia.com or click the banner at DennisPrager.com.
Hi, it's Scott Tucker. I'm the host of Retirement Dakota with Scott Tucker on AM 560 The Answer. Listen to the show every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. and again at 5 p.m. By the way, I want to offer you a free copy of my latest book, Escape Illinois, Should I Stay or Should I Go? This book is very helpful if you want to escape Illinois or if you want to stay put in retirement. You can just go to retirementdecoded.com. That's retirementdecoded.com. Put in your information and we will send you a free copy of the book right there.
Starting August 22nd, the U.S. dollar may have new competition from a new global supercurrency backed by Russia and China. And if the dollar plummets, your retirement could follow. Hi, Stephen K. Bannon. I recommend a gold IRA from Birch Gold Group. To learn more, get a free info kit on gold by texting the word SHELTER to 989898. I encourage you to act. Before August 22nd, text SHELTER to 989898 to get your free information kit on gold now.
5:38, let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg traffic center time. Inbound Kennedy, already 23 heavy minutes, so O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Ike at 26, 390 to the old post office. Dan Ryan, 13 in, 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Bishop Ford jams up 115th into the Ryan merge. And Joliet, right now, Washington between Iowa and Logan is shut down due to a bad accident. Car into a freight train this morning. And that investigation is ongoing and continues. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Partly sunny, high 85, clear and 68 overnight. 70 right now. Next news at 6. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. America First with Sebastian Gorka today at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Indeed, Johnny
He made
Lang.
it, Dan.
Johnny Lang's
Yes.
appropriate lead in here. So yeah, Devin Archer did not get knocked off, much to your, not to your chagrin, but
Accidental death. I'm glad he made it there safely, and he was able to sit down for 4 hours behind closed doors. So yes,
selling the
I was wrong.
brand. Did not get assassinated.
No.
Despite your concerns. So that was good news. But
He
selling
could
the
always get
brand.
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I said he could always get Epsteined in prison. That's what somebody texted into our text line.
Of course he could. Whatever that means exactly. But so anyway, 20 times, more than 20 times, baby boy Hunter put the big guy on the phone to talk to clients. But, that can be interpreted a lot of different ways.
Oh, really?
Dan Goldman from New York, this guy,
Whew, how did
really
that work?
rising in the ranks here. This is what Dan Goldman had to say about the conversations that are alleged between the big guy, meaning Mr. 10%, meaning President Biden, and Hunter's friends in foreign lands.
Doesn't that contradict the president's statement saying that he never talked to any of Hunter Biden business associates? Clearly he talked, whether it's about the weather or whatever, but he said specifically that he's never talked to them. Doesn't this contradict him?
I don't know what his comment is, and if we're gonna, I don't think that's what he said. He never said that he has never spoken to anyone. He said that he had nothing to do with Hunter Biden's business dealings. If he says hello to someone that he sees his son with, is he supposed to say, "Hi, son"? Oh, no, I'm not going to say hello to the other people at the table or the other people on the phone. It's kind of a preposterous premise to think that a father should not say hello to people that the son is at dinner with, and that is literally all the evidence is.
Yeah, that's the preposterous premise, to believe that Joe Biden was being anything other than courteous. What do you don't want him to have a good relationship with Hunter's friends? Is that what you're saying? He can't just say hello? He can't say, this weather we're having, it's really something?
Well, that's the thing. He said that they talked about the weather. That's what this congressman alleges.
It was clear that it was part of the daily conversations that Hunter Biden had with his father. President Biden didn't even know who the people he was at dinner. He was just asked to say hello. And he would, he described what the weather was, how what's going on your end. It's kind of a preposterous premise to think that a father should not say hello to people.
Yeah, but they talked. A weather conversation lasts about 5 minutes. Then you get to business. Okay, 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636, type in DA, and then text us on our text line.
Well, first of all this talk about pleasantries over dinner.
Yeah.
That wasn't Devin Archer's testimony. His testimony was he put his father, then serving as the VP, on speakerphone during business meetings more than 20 times in order to sell the brand. What is all this talk about breaking bread with people? Speakerphone. In addition to that, just, for the record, Dan Goldman saying that he never said he never talked to these, he never said he never talked to Hunter about his business dealings. Really? No, that's not true.
I've never spoken to my son about going to business.
And so how do you know?
Here's what I know. I know Trump deserves to be investigated.
I never spoke to my son about his business dealings.
He's such a liar. That's what I learned yesterday.
You learned that yesterday?
No, we learned a lot yesterday. Hunter was hired by Burisma to get Joe to fire the prosecutor.
We
knew that.
We didn't learn anything yesterday. We just got confirmation on what we already know.
Well, I didn't know that when Hunter went to China on Air Force 2 with his dad, and I know that he got millions from that Chinese businessman for what work done, nobody knows. But then what I learned yesterday was that then Joe got on a phone call with the man, and then Joe Biden wrote a letter of recommendation to Brown University on behalf of the Chinese businessman's daughter.
Yeah, that's not new either. Here's Joe's years now of lying about all of this.
Okay.
No one's established that he did anything wrong or that I've done anything wrong. Period. He did not do a single thing wrong, as everybody's investigated. But look, there is zero evidence of any assertion being made. You know there's not one single bit of evidence, not one little tiny bit, to suggest anything done was wrong. There's not a scintilla of evidence that I did anything wrong. No one has produced one scintilla of evidence that I did anything other than do my job for America. I don't discuss business with my son.
Have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business. And I've never discussed what my son's business with him because I didn't want any conflict.
Do you stand by your statement that you did not discuss any of your son's overseas business dealings?
Yes, I stand by that statement. First of all, I have never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their businesses, period. I've never discussed my business or their business, my sons or daughters, and I've never discussed them. The article, released this thing online, it's going to be printed tomorrow in the Times, was good. I think you're clear.
Yeah, that was the famous call between the big guy and baby boy Hunter about saying that with the big guy telling him he was in the clear.
Yeah,
Never did anything wrong, not a scintilla of evidence, never spoke with my son about his business or my brother or my sister.
Well, everywhere Joe goes with Hunter, Hunter got paid. And remember at first, Dan, Democrats said this was Russian disinformation. And now it's, well, yeah, Biden talked to his son's business partners, but it was about the weather. So they were selling access, they were selling influence, they were selling the Biden family business. And one thing that maybe you missed was that Big Guy has another nickname. Here's Andy Biggs.
So Devin Archer himself said that was an implication of who the big guy is. I mean, and Archer talked about the big guy and how Hunter Biden always said, we need to talk to my guy. We need to see when my guy's going to be here and those types of things.
Yeah, Big Guy and the my guy.
Bessie in Grays Lake, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
There's one really easy trick or investigative tool to confirm what the whistleblowers are saying. And Peter Schweitzer wrote about it, and so did John Solomon, that Burisma and Hunter issued Joe Biden a burner phone. Get the burner phone records.
Yeah, that's fair. Thanks for the call, Bessie. There's also some suggestion that maybe some of the conversations between the two were on some encrypted service, one of the messaging platforms that is encrypted. So more investigation is required, and that's exactly what House Oversight Committee Chairman Jim Comer said last night on Sean Hannity about the testimony and where it goes, the testimony from Archer and where the investigation goes from here.
Well, Devin Archer testified that they were influence peddling. We've wondered what the business was. I suspected it was influence peddling, but we heard today from someone on the inside, it was influence peddling. They sold Joe Biden. That's what the business was. And Joe Biden himself talked to every single person that has wired money to the Bidens. I mean, you've got a situation here where you look at those people who were wiring the money. A lot of those people aren't the most credible people in their countries. There are a lot of people who are in a lot of trouble in many of these countries who were sending wires to the Biden family. They needed help. They needed help from the government. That's why they paid the Biden family. They were influence peddling. But what this did today, in my opinion, is open the door. Did Joe Biden violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act? Because he was an active participant in at least one deal we know of with the Burisma deal. He was actively participating in doing a benefit to this foreign agent for this foreign country, and he was withholding American tax dollars in the form of foreign aid for that. I mean, this is very serious. Today took a huge step towards implicating Joe Biden.
Yeah, the question as to what were these foreign nationals buying?
Right.
They were buying Joe Biden.
Got a great
and
text.
Devin Archer, just to be clear about it, what were we selling? We were selling the brand, Biden, family name, and the perceived influence. So, yeah, I think that is where it goes. And as we've said from the beginning, and Jim Comer has said, and Jim Jordan has said, and Kevin McCarthy has said, it was never about Hunter Biden. It was always about the big guy.
Well, could this end Joe Biden's campaign?
Not until or unless Democrats flee him. So I guess that's the thing to watch. And certainly if they're going to take the posture of Dan Goldman and be willing to make an ass of themselves like he is, then no, it shouldn't end his campaign.
Got a great text message. Dan and Amy, maybe the weather was the condition of the deal.
Oh, they're speaking in code. I don't think they're
Speaking in
sophisticated
tongue.
enough. Mike in Littleton, Colorado.
Hey, good morning, and excuse me. Thank you for taking my call. It just dawns on me that what these the left always hides behind. They just turned it into a popularity contest, and I hope my logic here makes sense. But the same people. Nobody believes that this guy is innocent, or certainly everybody, both sides, looks at him and goes, "Yeah, there's something wrong here, right?" But these same people are the people who vote for him and vote for their platforms because they feel advantaged by taking a position that a man can become a woman. They don't believe that either, but they feel that there's an advantage in it for them. And that's what we're up against. And I just don't, the law and logic and all that doesn't matter. Look, if this was you and me, we'd already be in the clink. And that's what it's going to be. It's just going to be drawn out, and it's all theater. And for me, it's very frustrating. So
Watch Juan.
I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for the call, Mike. Watch Juan Williams on Fox to know what the talking point is going to be. I assume they'll come up with something more sophisticated than Dan Goldman, but it'll probably just be a cheap misdirection play because that's all they need. I mean, Juan Williams has been saying this since I debated him a couple months ago. What about Jared Kushner and the Saudis? What about it? I don't know.
Yeah, what about it?
So let's talk about something else. Let's talk about Jared Kushner and the Saudis. They all do it. It's going to be that they all do it. It's all politicians are the same. Everybody influences, it peddles influence. What about Trump and the hotel he wanted to build in Russia? What about Jared Kushner and the Saudis? That's what they're going to do because there's just an unwillingness to set a standard and hold everybody by it. Because to Mike in Littleton, Colorado's point is, right, how do we massage this to our political advantage knowing that our bread is buttered with the Bidens? That's right. That's what you're going to see.
But it was so clearly that they were just selling influence. I mean, Hunter Biden is not an artist. He's never been trained. He's never taken an art class. He's also not privy in the energy world. So obviously they were just buying access. And sometimes it looked like they were just giving them money, millions of dollars to have access.
Well, that's what they were doing.
I know.
Everything.
Why does the left not really? I mean, not
everything.
ABC, they didn't even cover the story.
This is intended to insult your intelligence. It's intended to insult your intelligence. You get it? This is not some complicated scheme. None of it. It's obvious. And number one, this is what they think of you, that they can offer cover stories like Dan Goldman's. He was just being courteous. He just happened to be in the neighborhood, and he thought he'd stop in and say hi to Hunter and his buddies.
Or talk to them on the speakerphone at Cafe Milano, where they had most of their dinners.
This is what they think of you, and the intention is to insult your intelligence. The intention is to get you to hyperventilate and get whipped up about this so we can have these ridiculous conversations like I had to endure with Juan Williams, where we were pulled. The attempt is to pull us into rabbit holes about whataboutism rabbit holes, like I just mentioned with Kushner and the Saudis, or what about Trump, because all roads lead back to Trump. That's the intention. Jason in North Lake.
Well, the Democrats know that the average low information voter doesn't care about corruption. That's why they finally had to admit that Hunter Biden sired a child, that the Bidens have a 7th grandchild, because that's all they care about is the public image, and they know that people are getting so disgusted with this kindly elder gentleman is just a dirtbag, and that's what they know that the American people care about. They don't care about the corruption or influence peddling because they think they all do it.
Yeah, I think that's largely right, Jason. I mean, and by the way, we know how a kleptocracy works because, you live in one in Illinois. And people see the corruption that's obvious. And they listen to the ridiculous cover stories like you heard from Dan Goldman. And they roll their eyes and they move on because we know they're lying to us. We know they're trying to leverage their office for personal gain. And so what do? Throw them out? Oh, heck no. This is how it works. Now I just need to figure out how I get in queue so that I get my deal. I get my cut. Cut me in, cut it out, cut me in or cut it out. I get my special insider play, my waiver. That's the point. And that's how the kleptocracy feeds on itself. And that's what Joe Obama is turning this country into, or at least the federal government. You think people think that they have influence over the federal government? Of course they don't. They throw up their hands. And that's exactly what they want you to do, just like they did in Illinois. Throw up your hands. There's nothing we can do about it. Well, if there's nothing we can do about it, and we can't get rid of these people because they're some part of a permanent political ruling class, well, then I just need to play the game according to their rules. And it feeds on itself. The snake eating its tail. Bob in Grays Lake.
Yeah, it was Jonathan Gruber, Obama's Obamacare czar, when he was asked how they got Obamacare passed, he said that they relied on the stupidity of the American people. With Dan Goldman, I can put it no more succinctly than this. Dan Goldman is full of shit.
Full of shift with the F's. Yes, thanks, Bob.
And people seem to forget that President Trump got impeached because he called the Ukrainian president to ask him about Biden's involvement in Burisma.
Mark in Naperville.
Yeah, just going to say, the only thing that's different about Joe is he's stupider and crookeder. I mean, when he was bombastic in that Council for Foreign Relations comment about he's not getting $1 billion, I mean, just really, really blatant and stupid. That's the only difference with him.
Thanks, Mark.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
When you're serious about your concealed carry training and education and are ready to learn from an active police officer with a teaching degree, check out Illinois Concealed Carry Training in Midlothian. You'll learn safe, responsible firearm use, home defense planning, conflict avoidance, situational awareness, and how to remain physically, morally, and financially safe in the event you must use your firearm in self-defense or the defense of another. Weekday and weekend classes available.
I'm Sergeant Gary Carr, police firearms trainer and the owner of Illinois Concealed Carry Training. We'll arm you with what really counts, knowledge and training. All concealed carry curriculums are not created equal. This may be the single most important decision you'll ever make for yourself and your loved ones. Choose between 3 and 16-hour classes that are available both weekdays and weekends. We are your one-stop for concealed carry classes, fingerprints, and legal defense plans.
Register for a class today and get 10% off class fees with promo code AM560. Visit IllinoisConcealedCarry.com. That's IllinoisConcealedCarry.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer,
John Kerry, why the long face? Because you're not eating crickets. You're still eating hamburgers at 6:06.
But now let's head straight into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
Illinois requesting disaster declarations over flash flooding in Cook County. CDOT commissioner is stepping down, leaving the Brandon Johnson administration. Cubs making moves ahead of the trade deadline. White Sox visit the Rangers, and the Cubs fall to the Reds. Partly sunny and 85 today. WIND Chicago News Time, 6 o'clock.
The White House says Republicans didn't produce any evidence. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. They say they did when ex-Hunter Biden business associate Devin Archer talked to lawmakers in private.
We saw Joe Biden has lied to the American people. He knew exactly who his son was getting those millions and millions of dollars of wires from, and he spoke to them, and he spoke to them often.
That's House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer on Fox after Archer told them Hunter Biden got his father, the then vice president, on speakerphone at least 20 times with business associates. But Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman pushes back.
The witness was unequivocal and stated very clearly that they never discussed any business on that phone conversations.
Goldman says it was all small talk like the weather. 54% of Americans disapprove of the job President Biden's doing in a New York Times Siena poll. Only 39% approve. That same poll gives former President Trump a 54-17 lead over Ron DeSantis in the Republican race. A new Morning Consult survey has it a 43-point Trump lead, but DeSantis is skeptical, talking to Fox's Brett Baer.
You don't believe that former President Trump could win a general election against Joe Biden?
I don't think so, because I think that there's too many voters who just aren't going to vote for him.
As for shaking up his campaign and cutting staff, DeSantis calls it a course correction to focus on the mission. The federal jury that convicted Robert Bowers in the massacre of 11 Jewish worshipers at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh will today deliberate a life or death sentence. In Idaho, Lori Vallow Daybell got life in prison without parole for murdering her two youngest children, but she insisted at her sentencing.
I know for a fact that my children are happy and busy in the spirit world.
The judge told Daybell she went down a bizarre religious rabbit hole and is still down there. At the World Cup, the U.S. women's soccer team advanced to the next round after a 0-0 tie with Portugal early this morning. America's listening to Fox News.
69 degrees at 6:02 on AM 560, The Answer, and good morning. I'm Mike Scott. There will be a stronger pro-life law in Indiana starting today. Indiana's new abortion law, which protects babies in the womb after 10 weeks and stops outpatient clinics from offering abortions, takes effect today. Lawmakers approved that law last August, not long after the U.S. Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade. The judge initially blocked that law, but that was later overturned. One teenage girl is dead, another wounded following a shooting on the south side. A group of kids were hanging out last night in the 400 block of West 72nd Street when shots rang out. A 16-year-old girl was shot in the back and hospitalized, later pronounced dead. A 15-year-old is in good conditions after suffering wounds to an arm. Chicago police say 37 teens were charged after a reckless gathering ensued in the city's South Loop on Sunday night. 30 teens, ages 12 to 17, were charged with misdemeanors. One 15-year-old boy was charged with felony unlawful use of a weapon. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson appears ready to forge ahead when raising that real estate transfer tax on high-end homes to try and create a fund to fight homelessness. Johnson is calling for a binding referendum that allows Chicago voters to decide whether to approve his so-called mansion tax. A criminal investigation continues into a Cook County judge accused of stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from a Tuskegee airman. Prosecutors say Patricia Martin used the funds to buy cryptocurrency. Cubs on a 2-game losing streak following a 6-5 loss to the Reds at Wrigley Field. Northsiders trail Cincinnati by 5 games. Meantime, the White Sox begin a mid-game series against the Rangers in Dallas. The news service of Fox Valley Coins, currently buying all gold and silver bars, coins, silver dollars, rare date, proof, and mint sets. Visit foxvalleycoins.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
The Sean Thompson Show.
There are millions upon millions of people of good character going to good states and low-rent Democrat scum going to Democrat states. After all, that's where they thrive. This is where this is acceptable. And it's being put as something that's normal. It's normal now to be an outright thief, scumbag, traitor to your country.
The Sean Thompson Show. Weekday afternoons at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
David in Pennsylvania writes in to tell us about his experience with Relief Factor. I tried Relief Factor for hip pain and was surprised that it also helped relieve my shoulder and foot discomfort. After taking it for a month, I stopped. And sure enough, the pain returned. So I started taking Relief Factor again, and within a week, the pain was relieved. I'm now taking Relief Factor daily. Well, thank you, David. You know, I've heard your story before. People stopping and then starting again because it works. As you all know, I had trouble with aches and pains, and climbing steps was brutal. Your first step to living the life you love, free from aches and pains, could just be to order the 3-week Quick Start for the highly discounted price of $19.95. After trying Relief Factor, over 500,000 people have gone on to order more. Try it for yourself and see what all these people are talking about. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF to find out more about this offer. That's 800-4RELIEF. Live your best life and feel the difference with Relief Factor.
Balance of Nature, changing the world one life at a time.
I think it's just a really good idea simply because I have such a busy schedule that I can't always take care of all of my nutritional needs in the proper ways. I really like it. It's quite nice. I would say that I have more energy. I'm sleeping really well. With my schedule, I don't get quite enough sleep sometimes. And when that happens, I still can manage to have a normal day the following day. So I'm pretty well pleased with it.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. This week only, we're extending our special travel offer. Right now, get $25 off your first order as a preferred customer, plus a free fruits and veggies travel set with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Call 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
6:07. It's time to visit signaturebank.bank. Time to check the roads in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center. Inbound Kennedy at 30 minutes from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Watching an accident be cleaned up on the left-hand shoulder this morning on the inbound Kennedy. Kennedy Express lanes jamming up inbound between the Edens and Fullerton. Dan Ryan, stop-and-go traffic, 95th up through 79th. Express lanes on the Ryan inbound start their jam at 47th all the way to the Chinatown feeder. Tri-State, slow traffic on the ramp to the outbound Ike this morning. And Old Mill Creek is jammed up due to bridge work that begins today. It's a complete replacement. It's not going to be done until October 19th. That's on Stearns School Road between Hutchins and Mill Creek Drive. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continue next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Partial sun today, the high 85, clearing tonight, low 68, and then partly sunny for tomorrow, the high 86. Tomorrow night, partly cloudy, low 66, sun and clouds, humid day Thursday, high Thursday afternoon, 89. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
69 at O'Hare. Next news coming up at 6:30. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Are you having trouble coping with climate change? Do you not know what to do with your climate emotions? Are you seeing a climate therapist?
Is that really a thing?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it is. Because we've scared our children so much that they're so worried about Mother Earth that they can't do their homework. It was even a theme in one of those shows. Oh, I can't remember the name of the show, but yeah, okay. I shouldn't be surprised it's a thing. Are you seeing one, Dan?
Alicia Finley has a good piece in the Journal, really good piece. And she cites some of the scholarship on the topic, like this New Yorker magazine piece that was published earlier this month, What to Do with Climate Emotions. It may be impossible to seriously consider the reality of climate change for longer than 90 seconds without feeling depressed, angry, guilty, grief-stricken, or simply insane, writes the author, a woman named Gia Tolentino. She describes how climate therapists can help patients cope, so you may want to perk up your ears. The goal is not to resolve the intrusive feeling and put it away, but to aim for a middle ground of sustainable distress. That's how I want to live my life, in sustainable distress about the weather. Right? Don't you?
Yeah. No, it sounds healthy. It sounds really good.
It does, because it's got the word sustainable in it. As Finley observes, even the climate left's despair must be sustainable. You have to sustain the despair. Do it in a responsible way.
Please, as always. Yes.
Some of the statements being made and the articles being written are really astounding. No more
10-day heat wave here in the Southwest, and everybody's his hair is on fire now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it gets hot in the desert in the summertime.
We used to call that summer. Well, and no one more. Again, just to repeat, so people know where they stand, and they can properly account for their sustainable distress. This is, again, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on the period that has now been ushered in.
And for scientists, it is unequivocal. Humans are to blame. All this is entirely consistent with predictions and repeated warnings. The only surprise is the speed of the change. Climate change is here, it is terrifying, and it is just the beginning. The era of global warming has ended, the era of global boiling has arrived.
Run for your lives! 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. The World Health Organization shares the terror that afflicts UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, noting the very awareness of climate change and extreme weather events and their impacts may lead to a host of ills, including strained social relationships, anxiety, depression, intimate partner violence. Helplessness.
Officer, why did you do it? It's because of climate change, sir.
Helplessness, suicidal behavior, alcohol, and substance abuse. Have you been drinking a little bit more heavily this summer, trying to cope with the heat?
Sounds like ramifications from COVID close downs.
How is climate change destroying your lives? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line, and your mental health. Obviously.
Well, I'd like to tell you a story. So I'm here in Utah for the week, and when we flew out from O'Hare to Phoenix, there was a lot of turbulence, and the flight attendant said, I've been here flying for 36 years, and it's really bad this summer, and it's because of climate change. I said, oh, really? There's more you don't say? Because, normally when you fly in July and August, there's summer storms, and that's why it's turbulent. And then she went on to say, well, did you hear the Atlantic Ocean is 104 degrees? And I said, well, did you know that was a lie? That they took a temperature reading in a lagoon near the ocean, and that lagoon was 104, but not the ocean. So there's a lot of lies out there, and the only thing you could do is just set them straight, or at least tell them in a calm voice what you know, and maybe they'll learn something, but I doubt it.
As Finley writes, these climate hypochondriacs, like that stewardess you were talking about,
Flight attendant.
Yeah, the stewardess. That's what I said. Deserve to be treated with compassion, much like anyone else who suffers from mental illness. They shouldn't, however, expect everyone else to enable their neuroses. Yeah, but that's what we do. We enable the neuroses of whoever is the most terrified. We did it during COVID. We do it with respect to gender identity politics. And, of course, we do it with respect to the alleged disappearance of polar bears and the existence of wildfires. The planet's on fire and so on and so forth. No, actually, not really. It's not. But don't tell that to climate czar John Kerry. This little talk about how, if we want to get to net zero, oh boy, do we. By 2050, the global community has come to a consensus on this, and that's good enough for Antonio Guterres, so it should be good enough for you. John Kerry, we have to go after the food producers. Food producers in this country, big problem. Agribusiness, they're the problem.
Farmers are the problem?
Farmers, farmers and food producers. So, let's start migrating our diets to switchgrass and crickets and so forth, because we got a goal to meet, folks.
Agriculture contributes about 33% of all the emissions of the world, depending a little bit on how you count it, but it's anywhere from 26 to 33. And we can't get to net zero. We don't get this job done unless agriculture is front and center as part of the solution. But with a growing population on the planet, we just crossed the threshold of 8 billion fellow citizens around the world. We just crossed that in this last year. Emissions from the food system alone are projected to cause another 0.5 degree of warming by mid-century on the current course that we are today. A 2-degree future could result in an additional 600 million people not getting enough to eat. And you just can't continue to both warm the planet while also expecting to feed it. Doesn't work. So we have to reduce emissions from the food system to keep the 1.5 degrees alive. Why do we have to keep 1.5 degrees alive? Because scientists, as a basis of physics and mathematics, not ideology and politics or party labels or anything else, as a matter of physics and mathematics and some biology and chemistry, have told us these are the consequences. And we already see it happening. And almost everything they've predicted for 30 plus years now is coming true, but the problem is it's coming true faster and bigger than was in fact predicted.
Sounds like they want population control.
Yeah, you're going to have to break a few eggs in order to save the planet. Burn the village to save it, sort of thing. That's what John Kerry's proposing. Our friend Bjorn Lomborg, writing in the Wall Street Journal as well, just about this man on fire business, planet on fire. For more than 2 decades, satellites have recorded fires across the planet's surface. The data, unequivocal. Since the early 2000s, when 3% of the world's land caught fire, the area burned annually has trended downward. In 2022, that's last year, the last year for which there's complete data, the world hit a new record low of 2.2% burned area. Yet you'll struggle to find that reported anywhere. Of course, that's what Bjorn Lomborg's for. 2.2%. In late 2021, the New York Times employed more than 40 staff on a project called Postcards from a World on Fire. That's the point. It's just agitprop. It is agitprop. Be terrified. Look at this.
Postcards from a World on Fire?
Believe that.
I missed that one.
I mean, it's on and on. By the way, I mentioned polar bears, and we've talked about this with Lomborg before, but all this 30 years of predictions that have mostly come true, and they're coming true even faster, says the guy with the long face. No. By the way, what's up with your stepson, Chris?
Yeah,
and his relationship with Hunter Biden and Devin Archer. But I digress. Polar bears were once the poster cubs for climate action, yet are now estimated to be more populous than any time in the past half century.
So they have to find a new creature.
We were told
to become
climate
the
change.
victim.
We were told climate change would produce more hurricanes, yet satellite data shows the number of hurricanes globally since 1980 has trended slightly downward. Now, Lundberg doesn't say that we should be oblivious to climate and impact, but he does say we should be sane about it. And that's just too much to ask from the political ruling class. But perhaps it's, insanity like a fox. Perhaps there is another goal that's undisclosed and covered with be afraid, be very afraid. Perhaps there's something else that they want to do as they're remaking the world. They're always in the business of remaking the world in their image. Heaven on earth.
Is John Kerry still eating meat? If he wants to achieve net zero, he should start with himself. He should stop flying private planes around too.
Actually, I don't even that to me is like I'm so tired of hearing people say that. Yeah, John Kerry's a hypocrite, and so are all of these leftist dilettantes. And hypocrisy is their privilege. That's how they view it. Number one. Number two, it just doesn't have any currency. By the way, attack the premise. If you want to achieve net zero, no, we don't want to achieve net zero. We can't achieve net zero. That is a fairy tale. Actually, it's a nightmare is what it is, pursuing it. We need to focus our attention rather than being led around by the nose by the rhetoric of charlatans like John Kerry, for God's sake. Ralph and Rantoul.
Yeah, good morning. It's all about power and control, and this is just their latest tool to achieve that, and most of what John Kerry says is never checked. Not only are the things not coming true that were predicted 30 years ago, but you still have that shill Ehrlichman still walking around Lake Great. Nothing that he predicted, but
Paul Ehrlich, you mean population bomb?
Correct.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to do my part. I am working right now diligently in my lab in the bunker on flavored embalming fluids. Ranch and barbecue are very, very popular.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of sampling it on chicken McNuggets. It's time to move into some beta testing. So
that is exciting.
Soylent Green is the future.
Yeah.
It's the circle of life, Dan and Amy. Turn everybody back into food, and we can all just become like grazing cattle that are turned from herbivores into carnivores or omnivores.
Well, that certainly would address the sustainable distress problem we have. Thanks for the call, Ralph. Ron and Homer Glen.
Hey, good morning, Dan and Amy. Amy, what you said about that flight attendant talking about turbulence is getting worse, that is likely a true statement. However, it has nothing to do with climate change. What causes turbulence mainly is thermals, which are pockets of air that are heated from the ground. So the more building that we have, the more roads that we create, the more parking lots that are put in. During the daytime when the sun is heating up those areas of pavement, you get these pockets of hot air that are rising quickly. So the difference that you feel when you go over, say, a cornfield and then over a large parking lot, you'll feel a turbulence because of the different rates that the air is rising. Other things that cause turbulence are mechanical friction on the ground. So the more buildings that we have, the more high rises, that's deflecting wind and creating eddy currents in the air that also causes turbulence. You'll notice that if you fly at nighttime, that the air is usually very smooth because you don't have the thermals that are causing that. So the stewardess could be right, because the more building that goes on, the more things that we construct, you're going to have more turbulence generally, and especially during the day. But it has nothing to do with climate change.
So, Ron, are you a pilot by chance?
I have a pilot's license. I do not work as a pilot, but I have a private pilot's license. Yeah.
Well, thank you for introducing us to eddy currents. I had no idea.
Yeah, and it's very helpful because now when you fly back, you can tell that stewardess, you're probably right, but you're also still an idiot. So just so that I got some good news and I got some bad news for you.
Okay.
Yeah. Dennis in Milwaukee.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I think the smartest radio show in the country today, Dan and Amy. Real quick, in 1913, we had 134 degrees in Death Valley. A quick Google will tell you that. 134 degrees this week. With at that time, less than 2 billion people in the world. I mean, it is about what the caller a couple of calls ago said before. It's about power and control. This is just their latest arrow in a quiver, and it gives the hysterical people to carry the narrative for the people seeking control and power.
Thanks for the call, Dennis. Yeah. Bob, Buffalo Grove.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Thanks for taking my call.
Munchkin line.
This past weekend, I got into an extremely heated argument with a family member, or a close friend, arguing about the climate change and the highest temperatures in recorded history. I keep on hearing that mantra, highest temperatures in recorded history. Please define recorded history. I came back with the question, what thermometers did they have in the Roman era?
Yeah.
And nobody can challenge the media on what is recorded history. Have a great day.
Thanks, Bob. Drew and Morris.
Hey, Dan. Hey, Amy. Do you guys remember in Sopranos season 1 when Junior was going to go to Vesuvio and kill little pussy Malegna, okay? And what happened was that Tony wanted to burn down Vesuvio to save Vesuvio. Now, that's a lot like how John Kerry's acting over there, is that he's saying that what he wants to do is he wants to get rid of agriculture to feed more people.
Yeah.
You understand how that works?
Yeah, and I understand that John Kerry's a gangster. Perfect analogy. Thanks for the call, Drew.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
When you're in the market to buy or sell a home, commercial property, or even vacant land, let attorney Susan J. Kim step in. She's reliable, responsive, personable, and extremely thorough when helping you deal with an otherwise stressful transaction. Attorney Kim leads with her values and is committed to providing legal services with excellence. To contact Attorney Kim, visit sjkimlaw.com. That's sjkimlaw.com. Whether it's drafting agreements, negotiating contract terms, or closing on a property, Attorney Susan J. Kim can do it all. Over 10 years of experience and her wealth of knowledge tackling complicated legal negotiations and breaking them down into a smooth, easy-to-understand process is what she does best. So let Attorney Susan J. Kim step in. To schedule your legal consultation today, visit sjkimlaw.com. That's sjkimlaw.com or call 847-906-3166. Susan J. Kim Attorney at Law is a state of Illinois licensed real estate attorney.
Are you a business owner with a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, and a plan for growth, but you just need the right bank? Hi, Mike Gallagher here, letting you know that Signature Bank is all about going the distance for commercial banking customers. It's what Signature Bank does every day. Their team understands that accessibility is key to their culture. In times like these, you want a bank that is there for you to weather the bad times and capitalize on the good. And with Signature Bank by your side, you can't go wrong. It's a true partnership. That's why Signature Bank in Chicago is my bank. That's right. I'm a customer. I believe in what they have to offer, from innovative tech and customized solutions to help your business grow and thrive. Reach out to my friends at Signature Bank. Call 773-467-5630, 773-467-5630, or visit them online at signaturebank.bank. That's signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank makes commercial banking personal. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
One of the most important decisions you can make as a parent is where you send your kids to school. But these days, it's never been harder to know which school is best. Public schools have changed a lot, and you might be thinking about sending your child to a private Christian school. But you also know that private school can be expensive, and in this economy, You might think it's not an option. Well, think again. With halfpriceschools.com, you can purchase tuition vouchers for half the price of normal tuition for private schools. For nearly 10 years, halfpriceschools.com has helped families from all over Chicagoland make the dream of private school a reality. And that can be the reality for you and your child, too. Just go to halfpriceschools.com, search for a private Christian school near you, and purchase a voucher. It's that easy. Visit halfpriceschools.com. That's halfpriceschools.com.
The best way to protect yourself from inflation, hyperinflation, or a recession is to trade the doomed currency into a hard asset before it happens. Why precious metals? Gold and silver have been the store of value for thousands of years. Why not ETFs or just buy it on paper? The whole sales pitch for owning gold and silver is to have it in your own control, not in some bank vault hundreds of miles away or the cloud. Can't you just buy from anyone? Most people like the anonymity of paying cash and walking out the door with the product. You can't do that through the mail. If you are buying or selling gold, silver, or platinum, it's basically cash and carry.
Fox Valley Coins. Our products are as good as, well, you get the idea. Don't buy and sell through the mail. Deal with a real store. Fox Valley Coins in Naperville for an investment with a real silver lining. Check out foxvalleycoins.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
But skip the stuff. Have you heard about the skip the stuff law in New York? Because you should. It's coming to Chicago, I'm sure. It's going to prohibit, in New York it does, prohibit restaurants and third-party food delivery services from providing utensils, napkins, condiment packets, extra food and beverage containers, unless specifically requested by the customer. There are fines from $50 to $250 for every time you provide a napkin and plastic utensils when it wasn't asked. This is the level we're at. And by the way, why the law? We got to get to net zero, just like John Kerry said.
And later, one of the Spice Girls said, the country should be more fearful of white men. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
69 degrees, 631. Chinese state media says days of unusually heavy rain around China's capital, Beijing, have flooded homes, torn apart roads, and left at least 20 dead. The U.S. will not encourage or enable military strikes outside Ukraine's borders. The State Department this morning telling reporters it's up to Ukraine to decide how to conduct its war with Russia. Kyiv has tried to strike targets in Russia using drones. Hunter Biden's former business partner claims Hunter Biden would sometimes put his father on speakerphone while meeting with business partners.
Devin Archer himself said that was an implication of who the big guy is.
Arizona Representative Andy Biggs, New York Representative Dan Goldman says Hunter Biden conversations involving Joe Biden were, quote, casual, end quote.
Hunter may have put his father on the phone with any number of different people, and they never once spoke about any business dealings.
The panel investigating whether Joe Biden played a role in his son's foreign business dealings while vice president. Leave it to the Biden administration to make your light bulbs illegal. Americans will only be able to buy LED lights from retailers as a Biden administration ban on incandescent light bulbs starts today. Any manufacturer who violates the ban will face a maximum penalty of $542 per light bulb. There will be a stronger pro-life law in Indiana starting today. Indiana's new abortion law, which protects babies in the womb after 10 weeks and stops outpatient clinics from offering abortions, takes effect today. A judge initially blocked that law, but a court later overturned that order. The new law does allow for some abortions, in some cases up to 20 weeks. A teen girl is dead, another wounded following a shooting on Chicago's South Side. Police say a group of kids were at a gathering on the street last night in the 400 block of West 72nd when shots were fired. A 16-year-old girl was shot in the back, rushed to a nearby hospital, where she later was pronounced dead. More lawsuits filed on behalf of former Northwestern football players in the wake of the hazing scandal that surrounded the athletic program the entire month of July. And on this date, in 1981, were you awake at 12:01 a.m.?
This is it. Welcome to MTV Music Television, the world's first 24-hour stereo video music channel. Now, just moments ago, all of the VJs and the crew here at MTV collectively hit our executive producer, Sue Steinberg, over the head with a bottle of champagne, and behold, a new concept is born.
That's Mark Goodman, your first voice and face ever seen on MTV in 1981. First clip shown on the new cable channel. Video killed the radio star. Of course, your favorite five, J.J. Jackson, along with Martha Quinn, Nina Blackwood, the aforementioned Mark Goodman, and Alan Hunter. Later on, of course, our favorite, Kennedy. Cubs are on a 2-game losing streak following a 6-5 loss to the Reds at Wrigley Field. Cubs make an upgrade in the infield before the trade deadline, picking up a former Cub, Jameer Candelario, whose 16 home runs and 53 RBI topped the Washington Nationals this year. The news service of MyPillow, big news. MyPillow employees want to thank you by giving you the lowest price in history on their MyPillows. The regular price, $69.98, queen size. Now only $19.98 with promo code LIBERTY. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dennis Prager explains extreme arrogance.
This is very important. This is the arrogance of the left in a nutshell. We will come up with a new idea for what a policeman should do. And our idea will be better.
The Dennis Prager Show. Weekdays at 11, right before Charlie Kirk at 1 on AM 560. The Answer.
If your money is not earning at least 5.25% tax deferred, you need to call Professional Life and Casualty. They're offering a 5.25% APY on new funds deposited into your annuity, traditional IRA, or Roth IRA accounts. Rate subject to change. Please call to confirm. With Professional Life and Casualty, you pay no surrender charges, no administrative fees, and no withdrawal fees. Professional Life and Casualty has been providing insurance and annuity products for over 60 years. Visit plcinsurance.com, plcinsurance.com. They'll send you a free guide to tax-deferred, no-fee annuity. Earn 5.25% APY on annuity, traditional IRA, or Roth IRA. Pay no surrender charges, no administrative fees, and no withdrawal fees. Only from Professional Life and Casualty. Call 1-800-651-1800. That's 1-800-651-1800.
All right, let's talk food. Let's talk summer food. You got the burgers, you got the hot dogs, you got the beef sandwiches, and let's not forget the combo. You got to have the combo. It's Chicago, baby. Anyone getting hungry besides me? That's what summer food tastes like in Chicago. Fantastic. It's the one thing we all love. But it's all high in, you know, the bad stuff. Salt, sodium, lots of it. Which is when it comes to your high blood pressure, there's nothing worse. It's like sending your heart a get sick card. Now, don't toss away your grill. Just keep some balance. And to help get your blood pressure down, try 120 Life. That's what I do. They now have a new powdered drink mix. I'm drinking it and I love it. Scientifically formulated to help keep your blood pressure down. Plus, the new powdered drink, very, very good for you. It has 1 gram of sugar and 5 calories. 120 Life, the natural juice. It's a drink that works without the side effects of pill to control your blood pressure. Check out 120life.com. That's 120life.com and use coupon code LIBERTY to save 15% on your order. Plus, free shipping. And get this, you'll earn customer rewards point with every order. 120 Life. We need more stuff like this.
Lots of channels, nothing to watch, especially if you're looking outside of big corporate control. It's time to interrupt your regularly scheduled programs with something worth watching. The new Salem News Channel. Straightforward, unfiltered, in-depth insight and analysis from the greatest collection of conservative minds, all in one place. SNC is home to Dennis Prager, Mike Gallagher, Sebastian Gorka, and more. Watch anytime on any screen. Free 24/7. Find what you're looking for at snc.tv.
6:39. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is a service of Discover. Discover credit cards do something pretty awesome at the end of your first year. They automatically double all the cash back you've earned. All doubled. See terms and check it out for yourself at discover.com/match. Eden's at 22 Lake Cook Road to the junction. The Kennedy at 44 O'Hare to the Burns Circle interchange. Traveling on the Ike, 41 minutes, 390 to the old post office. Stevenson inbound, 40 minutes from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Tri-State jams up with a disabled vehicle in a left-hand lane, southbound, right before the Eisenhower merge. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Partly sunny and 85 today. Mainly clear, 68 overnight. 69 right now. Next news at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Doug Bondo is a senior fellow at the Cato Institute, former special assistant to President Reagan, and author of Foreign Follies, America's New Global Empire. He has a recent piece over at the American Conservative, AmericanConservative.com, about the foreign policy debates that we're not really having, although there's some people that are pushing the parameters out a bit when it comes to discussions about America's military might and how it should be used. Rand Paul comes to mind, J.D. Vance to some extent, certainly widening the parameters. We had that interview with Bret Baier that Ron DeSantis did last night, where he was asked some of the customary foreign policy questions of the day. Russia, Ukraine, China, Taiwan, and basically took the establishmentarian position, I would say. I mean, he is not a, neocon banging the drums of war, deter China from attacking Taiwan, invading Taiwan through America's strength, economically and otherwise, and support the Ukrainians in their fight to repel the Russians without deploying troops, without interfering and trying to broker an armistice. Let's see what Doug Bondo thinks about those positions, which I'm sure he's very familiar with. Doug, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Sure, happy to be on.
So, you want a debate that's more expansive than I'll end that war in 24 hours and the establishment position that I was just describing DeSantis taking?
Yeah, I think that, the issues we're facing are incredibly serious. What do you do with China? Are you actually prepared for a major conventional war with a country with nuclear weapons? We seem to be sleepwalking into a confrontation in East Asia. I believe in supporting Ukraine, but the question is, where does this go? And the critical issue for the United States, frankly, is to get the war over. We don't want to end up with a confrontation with Russia. We see within the U.S. political system, it is very hard to find anyone suggesting anything less than kind of the current policy, the think tanks, the media, et cetera. These are fairly dangerous issues, and we need more of a kind of a willingness of the system to consider alternative opinions. And frankly, you could run it back to the Iraq War, where at some point it became very hard to resist pressure to go to war with Iraq, which today most policymakers would admit was a mistake and went very badly. But at the time, people who predicted that, found themselves under very sharp attack, very hard to make their case.
Well, right, and also too, even to the extent that you wanted to go into, say, Afghanistan and issue a reckoning to those that were responsible, starting with bin Laden, those that were believing he was in Afghanistan or Pakistan as well. You want to issue a reckoning to those responsible parties with respect to 9/11. You still had the additional step that was taken of nation building that had us sort of bogged down in Afghanistan for 2 decades, dealing with dubious characters like Hamid Karzai, believing they're going to be sort of modern-day George Washingtons. And it seems to be playing itself out again in Ukraine to some extent.
No, that's right. And I think Afghanistan is a great example. I mean, I visited there twice. And there's no doubt we had to go in initially, into my mind, in terms of the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. But the idea of being there 20 years later, trying to bring democracy to Central Asia, especially through governments like Hamid Karzai, and Ghani, the final guy who fled and kind of led to the collapse of everything, I think showed the problem, how these issues kind of take on a life of their own, and then it's very hard to try to stop it.
So,
how should we have left Afghanistan? I mean, it was such a deadly withdrawal. What could Biden have done differently?
Well, I think, frankly, we should have been out of there sooner. I mean, I think that the problem with Biden, in fact, much of the issue, I think, was not so much Biden, but kind of the overall military establishment that didn't want to leave, and they had successfully avoided the pressure from President Trump. He had wanted to get out, and they had resisted that very strongly, and he hadn't. And it wouldn't surprise me if they thought that they could convince Joe Biden as well to back away. The problem was there wasn't nearly enough planning for, getting out. One of the problems preceded the president, which was we should have been getting interpreters and all the people who've been supporting us out over the years.
Yeah.
We had lots of people, thousands of them who wanted to get out. The process never worked. We got virtually nobody out. If we'd been bringing them out regularly, we wouldn't have panicked anybody. It wouldn't have looked like, oh my goodness, everybody better run for the exits. But they would have been gone before we got to the end game. And when we needed to have recognize, I mean, I went to Kabul, and I went out through both of the military and the civilian airports. They're in the center of the city. I mean, the moment everything started falling apart, everybody's going to rush for those airports. It's going to be utter chaos. And the system clearly, when the cities that started falling, many of them were not in Taliban areas. I mean, essentially, the Taliban were just buying off local elites. Everybody decided this is going under. So I think the thing we needed to have had a more structured and effective withdrawal, and I think that needed better planning. And my sense is that there was resistance within the administration, where finally the president said, "I want to do this," and then everything fell apart very quickly.
Well, and again, with respect to that, I completely agree. The translators, the allies on the ground in Afghanistan, the Afghan people that worked with our military, to not keep our promises, that also reverberates around the globe. It's an embarrassment. It's a black mark, and this is not. And it's sort of like talking about big city police forces. It's not an indictment of the rank and file cops, just like not an indictment of the rank and file soldiers on the ground. It's an indictment of the leadership of these institutions. And, it seems to me that the leadership, the generals, coming under more scrutiny as another example of an expert class that doesn't seem to exhibit much expertise.
Absolutely. The people to talk to are captains and majors who were kind of leading the fighting men. I mean, I've talked to some, and the stories they tell of being out in isolated outposts and what they saw. I mean, the corruption they saw, et cetera, which basically the higher up said, "Don't worry about that. That's not our charge." And of course, the problem is that undermines support, especially of rural Afghans, where the fighting is all around them. Afghans are dying. The U.S. is in league with local corrupt warlords. This is something which a lot of our service people saw. But we're told, just shut up about it. You can't do anything about it. And I think that's one of the problems. And when people say support the troops, we should. But the people to blame with these failures are not the rank and file. They're not the people who are on the front lines. It's a question of a very political leadership who came back to Washington and frankly didn't tell the truth in terms of what's going on, what's the future look like. Washington Post did a very powerful series looking at. It's called the Afghanistan Papers. And basically, the misstatements and the claims that were made over the years they were just shocking, which and our political leadership did not act on that, and ultimately they are the ones in authority and to blame.
Well, and we have the Zelensky papers, if you will, or the Ukrainian papers, if you will, too. That national Air National Guardsman who I guess leaked classified documents. The guy in Massachusetts, and that same military brass was saying publicly about Ukraine and the war effort there, as to what they privately felt. Those were two different things. They were telling the public something very different than they believed, and we're talking about behind closed doors.
That's right, and that seems to have played a role in terms of the current counteroffensive, which does not appear to be going very far, with what would appear to be very significant Ukrainian casualties. Now, of course, one of the problems here is it's very hard to get good information in terms of what's going on. But if we're in a situation where the Ukrainian government is working through all of the weapons it was given, and it's eating up its manpower reserves and losing lots of trained soldiers, the question is, well, what is the future for the Ukrainian war effort? And we kind of promote this as they've got to win. We believe they're going to win. But I think the real question is, if you went to the Pentagon today, how many of them actually believe that? If you don't believe that, then you need to start thinking about things like negotiations, because you don't want to get in a position where it looks like Ukraine could collapse. And we're kind of left out in the dark. It's a money pit. We pour lots of cash in, but we're not getting much evidence in terms of how much is that helping.
We also do this, all the rhetoric is that this is open-ended for as long as it takes, and I understand that sending a message to Putin that we're not going anywhere, this will be sustained, and our support will be sustained, and that's the message you want to send. And I'm not saying that we send diplomats over and tell Zelensky you have to give up this piece of land and this piece of land. But I mean, we do have an interest there based on the support we're given. So the idea that we don't have any say, we're just Pontius Pilate after we drop ship all the weapons, well, that doesn't seem to make sense to me. It seems like you want lines of communication, not just what do you need, but listen, at some point you need to have some contingency plans about how this ends, what victory looks like, or what a outcome that you can tolerate looks like. And I don't know if those conversations are happening.
Well, the point that I make is that, American officials, the topmost priority for them is America's interest. That is, and it's not the same as Ukraine's. So we have an interest in supporting Ukraine, but Ukraine has its own set of interests. I mean, they want Crimea back. I don't blame them.
Right.
But I don't believe the U.S. has any particular interest in promoting a war that could go nuclear or something in terms of trying to get Crimea back. So what we need to do, I think, is be realistic in our expectations and what we're willing to support, and make that point to the Ukrainians. That is, they can choose anything they want, but there are limits to our support, and what we need to do is tell them what that is, and then let them make the decision. So I'm not going to tell them what their peace desire should be.
Right.
But they need to know how far we are willing to go, and there's a limit. And it's the same thing with NATO. They want to be in NATO. I understand that. But we don't want to go to war for them, which means we can't bring them into NATO. We shouldn't feel embarrassed by that. The point is, American officials are supposed to be most concerned about defending our people, and there's good reason to ensure we don't get in a shooting war with Russia.
He is Doug Bondo, senior fellow at the Cato Institute, former special assistant to President Reagan, and author of Foreign Follies, America's New Global Empire. Doug, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care now.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. U.S. District Court Judge Norika was right to blow the whistle on this plea deal proposed for Hunter Biden by U.S. Attorney David Weiss. On rare occasions, a federal judge charged with reviewing plea agreement will reject the terms of that agreement. In a number of such cases, the disparity between the guidelines for sentencing and the agreed punishment is so great that it catalyzes the judge's review. The terms must pass this judicial sniff test. Hunter Biden's plea deal over tax and gun charges was ripe for rejection. Simply put, that deal stunk. What we've learned from the hearing raises a host of additional questions. Bargaining away even token jail time on the tax charges goes beyond lenience into outright unfairness, as does putting the gun charge out of the judge's review if she accepts the proposal. Signing off on this deal would have undercut the very premise of equal justice that sentencing guidelines were created to safeguard. I'm hoping Judge Norika presses back hard as the hearing continues.
It's hot and humid outside, but your basement or crawl space shouldn't feel that way. High humidity above 60% will activate mold spores, which results in unhealthy air throughout your home. Hi, I'm Roy Spencer of Permaseal. We have a solution for you. Our PermaDry air system will lower the humidity. This offer expires July 31st. Ask your consultant about financing options. That's 800-421-7325 or permaseal.net.
Hi, I'm Henry Winkler. My eyes are very important to me. My eyes connect me with things I love. I loved my late father-in-law dearly. He always lit up a room, but his vision dimmed with age. He had age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. And since partnering with Apellis, I've learned there's an advanced form of the disease called geographic atrophy, or GA. His struggle with vision loss made me want to help others know about GA's warning signs. For some, straight lines seem wavy, like when looking at a door frame. For others, blurry or missing spots can make it hard to read or see loved ones' faces. Many have trouble seeing in low light, making driving at night difficult. GA gets worse over time and cannot be reversed. If you've been diagnosed with AMD and notice vision changes, don't wait. Talk to your eye doctor about GA today. Learn more at GAWon'tWait.com. That's GAWon'tWait.com.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
I've had a high energy level every day, and I've just been doing great. And I just feel like it's a definite advantage to take them. Let me just say one other thing. I mentioned to my doctor that I was taking Balance of Nature, and they said they were very positive about that. And they said that was really good. That's a good product. And so I've been very pleased.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. This week only, we're extending our special travel offer. Right now, get $25 off your first order as a preferred customer, plus a free fruits and veggies travel set with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Call 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
A day at the ballpark can add up. At Wintrust, we get it. That's why when you open a White Sox checking account from Wintrust Community Banks, you'll receive a $300 bonus with qualifying activities, free ATMs nationwide, and get your very own exclusive White Sox debit card. Score the ultimate Sox souvenir that helps pay for more Sox souvenirs. Get your Sox card today. Visit wintrust.com/Sox. Wintrust, proud partner of the Chicago White Sox. Only $100 required to open. No minimum monthly balance or maintenance fees. Member FDIC.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and Amy, we note the passing of Paul Rubens at the age of 70.
Did you watch Pee-wee Herman's Playhouse?
I did watch it.
Did you?
Unfortunately,
Sorry.
Pee-wee caught holding his PP in public, and that's sort of overshadowed his turn as a children's television star. But yeah, I watched it. The first,
that was
the movie.
Yeah, the movie. But did you watch it? Was Saturday morning? Pee-wee Herman's Playhouse every Saturday morning. It was appointment television for a lot of kids. So.
Yeah. Although and everybody's going to talk about Pee-wee's Playhouse, but I got to say my favorite role of Paul Rubens.
What?
The episode of 30 Rock where he played Prince Gerhardt. Do you remember that?
I didn't see that episode, but I heard about it. I heard it was amazing.
It was genius. He is a product of years of generations, I should say, of royal inbreeding.
Would you like to dance? Sadly, because my body does not produce joint fluid, I cannot. But I would enjoy watching you dance for me. Oh. All right, then. Thank you. Thank you, all dear friends, for coming to my birthday!
It was good. If you haven't seen that, check it out online. It was a good Prince Gerhardt, Paul Rubens as Prince Gerhardt in 30 Rock. Pretty good. All right.
Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 7:07, testimony we didn't get to last week, but we need to. It was Chloe Cole. who we've brought to you before, testifying before Congress on the issue of mutilating children in the name of gender identity. 707.
And later, why Dan Proft's single Barbie version will explain. But now let's head into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
One teenage girl is dead, another badly hurt after a shooting on Chicago's South Side. Illinois is requesting disaster declaration money over flash flooding in Cook County and elsewhere. CDOT commissioner is stepping down a criminal probe into a retired Cook County judge. WIND Chicago News Time, 7 o'clock.
Does it prove President Biden's lying? I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Republicans say yes when Hunter Biden's ex-business associate Devin Archer told the House Oversight Committee that then Vice President Biden got on the phone with his son's business clients at least 20 times. And committee chairman James Comer tells Fox the Ukrainian energy company was involved.
That Hunter Biden was under immense pressure while they both served on the Burisma board to call Washington, D.C. immediately and try to get Shokin fired. That's the Ukrainian prosecutor.
Now, that prosecutor was fired, though President Biden says under international pressure over corruption. Fox's Brooke Singman reports.
The White House is rejecting Comer's conclusions from the hearing, telling me, quote, it appears that the House Republicans' own much-hyped witness today testified that he never heard of President Biden discussing business with his son or his son's associates or doing anything wrong.
A police officer was shot late last night in Whittier, California, trying to pull a car over. That led to a gunfight. A suspect was also injured and is in custody. As for the officer, Whittier's mayor posted on Facebook she's in good spirits. A gunman was critically injured in Memphis, Tennessee, after Fox's Gernal Scott reports he tried to shoot his way into a Jewish school.
The suspect was seen outside the Margolin Hebrew Academy attempting to enter the building. When he could not, he fired several shots outside. The school gave police a photo of the suspect and a description of his truck. Assistant Chief Don Crow said Memphis officers did find and stop that vehicle.
He immediately emerged out of the vehicle with a gun in his hand, and that resulted in an officer discharging his duty weapon.
In Pittsburgh, a jury will today consider a life or death sentence for Robert Bowers, who massacred 11 Jewish worshippers at a synagogue in 2018. Team USA fit to be tied at the Women's Soccer World Cup.
That's going to do it. Wow.
The final call on Fox Sports after a draw with Portugal, good enough for the American women to advance to the next round. America's listening to Fox.
69 degrees at 7:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. A stronger pro-life law in Indiana starting today. Indiana's new abortion law, which protects babies in the womb after 10 weeks and stops outpatient clinics from offering abortion, takes effect today. A judge initially blocked that law, but a court later overturned that order. One teen girl is dead, another wounded following a shooting on Chicago's South Side. That group of kids gathered in the 400 block of West 72nd Street when shots were fired. A 16-year-old girl was shot in the back, taken to a nearby hospital where she later died. Governor J.B. Pritzker Monday announced new initiatives for the state regarding access to abortion here. Senate Bill 1909 would allow the Illinois Attorney General to shut down pregnancy resource centers if they're found to conduct so-called, quote, deceptive practices, end quote. Such facilities may not offer abortion services. That measure led to a federal lawsuit by the National Institute of Family and Life Advocates. The governor struck out on Monday, saying it's the only avenue left for those who are pro-life.
They have only one thing that they have resorted to, and that's take every one of these pieces of legislation and try to take it to court and get a decision they like.
Mary Kate Zander of Illinois Right to Life says the governor is vastly downplaying the importance of court rulings in this matter.
I think it's ironic that the governor is treating it as he is, because as far as we're concerned, there is potentially already a precedence for this law. So it's looking promising for us, I would say.
In addition, Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul has been summoned to court on August 21st. A man could be in the Chicago area after allegedly setting his girlfriend on fire Sunday in Wisconsin. Myron Bowie, who police call armed and dangerous, allegedly told the victim he would kill her entire family. Then he set the victim on fire and drove away. Bowie has been known to frequent the Chicago area. Cubs lost to the Reds 6-5 and were making trades at the deadline. Chicago sent prospects to the Nationals for former Cub Jameer Candelario, the third baseman, hitting .258 with 16 home runs. White Sox take on Texas tonight. The news, a service of Dan and Amy 24/7. Around the clock, all day, every day. Listen now, danandamy247.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher says it's not just political figures getting attacked.
You hear the kind of vitriol that they are directing towards all of the Republican candidates. They're coming after you and me. They don't hate them. They don't hate Trump. They don't hate DeSantis. They hate Republicans. They hate Americans. They hate the country to begin with. And who could doubt that?
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
David in Pennsylvania writes in to tell us about his experience with Relief Factor. I tried Relief Factor for hip pain and was surprised that it also helped relieve my shoulder and foot discomfort. After taking it for a month, I stopped. And sure enough, the pain returned. So I started taking Relief Factor again, and within a week, the pain was relieved. I'm now taking Relief Factor daily. Well, thank you, David. You know, I've heard your story before. People stopping and then starting again because it works. As you all know, I had trouble with aches and pains, and climbing steps was brutal. Your first step to living the life you love, free from aches and pains, could just be to order the 3-week Quick Start for the highly discounted price of $19.95. After trying Relief Factor, over 500,000 people have gone on to order more. Try it for yourself and see what all these people are talking about. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF to find out more about this offer. That's 800-4RELIEF. Live your best life and feel the difference with Relief Factor.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
I'm a very, very skeptical person, so I think even if it had started working sooner, I was like, no, it can't be just Balance of Nature. Till I finally gave in and said, you know what? I think it's the Balance of Nature. So somebody will say, oh, I noticed this, or you look really good today, or you such and such, and I go, I know, it's the Balance of Nature. I have fingernails that I've never had before. They're long and they're strong and they're wow.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. This week only, we're extending our special travel offer. Right now, get $25 off your first order as a preferred customer, plus a free fruits and veggies travel set with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Call 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code Chicago.
7:07 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Let's start on the inbound Kennedy, where right now it's 46 minutes from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. On the Ike, your travel time right now at 44,390 into the old post office. You're slow through the avenues. Stevenson inbound, about 55 minutes from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Lakeshore Drive itself, northbound jamming up between Roosevelt and Monroe. The Tri-State, an accident, right lane block, southbound 294 between the Calsag Bridge to right before Kedzie. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Today, partly sunny with the high at 85. Clear tonight, low 68. And then partly sunny for tomorrow, the high 86. Patchy clouds tomorrow evening, low 66. Sunny clouds, a bit more humid Thursday, the high at 89. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
70 at O'Hare, 70 Midway. Next news, 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. teach them to mutilate themselves and at least observe the killing of their loved ones. That's the program in Canada. It's a program in 10 states in the United States that have death with dignity laws, assisted suicide, euthanasia laws. And now maybe look for this to be popping up. I'm surprised Illinois hasn't done this already, but I'm sure it's on the docket with one of or many of those Marxists in Springfield. Look for this to become part of the curriculum, just like gender identity politics is, all the books that we've talked about, all the lesson plans. Canada, where the Canadian death machine, the state-sponsored death machine, is euphemistically acronymed MAID, Medical Assistance in Dying. Oh, it's a service provided by your government. Children are now being introduced into medical assistance in dying, thanks to the Canadian Virtual Hospice and its Medical Assistance in Dying activity book.
What?
That sounds fun.
Is that a coloring book, Dan?
It's for children aged 6 to 12 because you want to get them into promoting a culture of death at an early age. A child is taught how a person is killed during euthanasia. This is from the Medical Assistance in Dying activity book. The 3 medicines work like this. The first medicine makes the person feel very relaxed and fall asleep. The second medicine causes a coma. A coma looks like sleep, but it's much deeper than regular sleep. The third medicine makes the person's lungs stop breathing and then their heart stops beating. Because of the coma, the person doesn't notice this happening. It doesn't hurt. When the heart and lungs stop working, their body dies. It will not start working again. This often just happens in just a few minutes, but sometimes it can take hours.
The end.
Yeah, right. And all is well. If the person asks to die, according to the Medical Assistance in Dying activity book for kids 6 through 12, you can't change their mind. As much as other people may want to change their mind, according to this book, the person who is choosing MAID to be killed by the state probably wishes just as strongly as that they could change their illness or condition and how it's affecting their life. And remember, in some of these countries, and it's starting to happen in some of the states here that have euthanasia laws, we're not just talking about physical maladies or a diagnosis that you have 3 months to live or you have ALS or something. We're talking about mental health conditions too. And by the way, in some of these Western European nations, they're also willing to have children killed who say, I don't want to live anymore. Oh, we've talked about this with Wesley Smith, who writes about this topic often. I thought we were in the business of trying to prevent youth suicide. Nope.
No,
Bit of a mixed message. So again, the Medical Assistance in Dying activity book, as much as you want to change their mind, the person who's choosing this probably wishes they could change their condition. When someone decides to ask for MAID, it's usually after thinking very carefully and having very hard feelings for a long time. So you can't change their mind. But that's not true. As Wesley Smith writes, palliative care and appropriate emotional and psychological interventions can overcome suicidal ideation in the seriously ill and disabled. But those asking for euthanasia are denied that essential hospice service. Moreover, in Canada, only 15% of the citizens there have adequate access to palliative care, while the country pushes euthanasia. Maybe it has something to do with that population problem John Kerry was talking about earlier, that we played earlier in the show. Oh, and again, this is an activity book for kids 6 through 12, Medical Assistance in Dying activity book. So there are activities, of course. Draw or write your ideas and feelings about the person in your life who is choosing MAID. You can share this sheet with someone in your family or a healthcare team member who can help you with your questions, ideas, and feelings. Use the blank paper or the picture below. Decorate it to look like you and the person. and then put an X over the person who's about to be killed, huh? That's my addition. The kid has choices, too.
Yeah, this part's disturbing, too.
Think about the different choices you have and which ones might feel best for you. Ask a parent or caregiver to go through the list and cross out anything that is not possible in your situation. Would you like to spend time with them before they have made? Would you like to be there with the person when the person is having made? Would you like to be there when your relative is murdered?
Right. So would you like to be in the room with the person, nearby but not in the room, somewhere else that feels familiar, school or camp? I mean, this is barbaric.
Wesley Smith writing that once we endorse killing as an acceptable answer to human suffering, we have to train the child that killing is okay because their instinct is probably going to be that it's wrong. Hopefully it will be that it's wrong. He writes, too, I mean, the idea of being a kid watching a family member be killed. If I were a kid and that happened to somebody I love, I'd never want to see a doctor again. Good grief. Well, that's where things are at. 312.
Oh, yeah. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. You could always reach us on our text line, 64636. Type in DA and then a quick comment. I mean, thank God they didn't have this when we were younger, but we shouldn't be doing this to our current youth because euthanasia, I mean, it's morally destructive and it's wrong.
Well, here's the thing.
There's always hope.
If
there's life, there's hope.
If we're supposed to let the children lead the way, then this should not be limited to adults, right? I mean, if we're going to allow children to say, I'm a girl trapped in a boy's body and I want puberty blockers and I want surgery, and you're there to affirm gender affirming, then if a child has a medical condition or maybe just a physical medical condition, maybe even a mental health condition, why wouldn't we go this direction that some of Western Europe is going, that Canada is going? Chloe Cole testified before the House Judiciary Subcommittee last week. We've offered Chloe Cole's remarks a few times over the years on the show, as she has spoken out about her experience, both quote-unquote transitioning and then detransitioning. She's spoken to village councils, school boards as well, about these quote-unquote gender-affirming treatments. Are they treatments? Predicate question. Are they treatments or are they abuse? Chloe Cole has an answer.
My name is Chloe Cole, and I am a detransitioner. Another way to put that would be, I used to believe that I was born in the wrong body, and the adults in my life whom I trusted affirmed my belief, and this caused me lifelong, irreversible harm. I speak to you today as a victim of one of the biggest medical scandals in the history of the United States of America. I speak to you in the hope that you will have the courage to bring the scandal to an end and ensure that other vulnerable teenagers, children, and young adults don't go through what I went through. At the age of 12, I began to experience what my medical team would later diagnose as gender dysphoria. I was well into an early puberty, and I was very uncomfortable with the changes that were happening to my body. I was intimidated by male attention, and when I told my parents that I felt like a boy, in retrospect, all I meant was that I hated puberty, that I wanted this newfound sexual attention to go away, that I looked up to my brothers a little bit more than I did to my sisters. I came out as transgender in a letter I sent on the dining room table. My parents were immediately concerned. They felt like they needed to get outside help from medical professionals, but this proved to be a mistake. It immediately set our entire family down a path of ideologically motivated deceit and coercion.
Testosterone injections at age 13, her breasts removed at age 15, and the result?
My grades in school plummeted. Everything that I went through did nothing to address my underlying mental health issues that I had. And my doctors, with their theories on gender, thought that all my problems would go away as soon as I was surgically transformed into something that vaguely resembled a boy. Their theories were wrong. The drugs and surgeries changed my body, but they did not and could not change the basic reality that I am and forever will be a female.
But her parents were told, repeat it with me, better to have a live trans son than a dead daughter. End the suffering of your daughter. Well, why not end the suffering permanently if that's what the child wants?
I mean, we're giving kids that power. I shouldn't be surprised we're giving them power to change their gender and beg mom and dad or school officials for, these horrible surgeries. It wouldn't be surprising to ask for maid to come. I want the maid service, Mom.
I don't want to live anymore. I want this to stop. And, as a parent, you're there to affirm. You're not there to provide any wisdom or guidance. You understand, right? Chloe Cole wants her story to be a final warning to policymakers.
We need to stop telling children that puberty is an option, that they can choose what kind of puberty they will go through, just so they can choose what clothes to wear or what music to listen to. Puberty is a rite of passage to adulthood, not a disease to be mitigated. Today, I should be at home with my family celebrating my 19th birthday, and instead I'm making a desperate plea to my elected representatives. Learn the lessons from other medical scandals like the opioid crisis, to recognize that doctors are human too, and sometimes they are wrong. My childhood was ruined along with thousands of detransitioners that I know through our networks. This needs to stop. You alone can stop it. Enough children have already been victimized by this barbaric pseudoscience. Please let me be your final warning.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro, answer line. Vedette in St. Joseph, Michigan.
Hi, good morning. I've called about this matter before. The palliative care, having your parents in a nursing home, at least in our state, it's horrible. All they do is overdrug them. They finally succeeded in killing my father. They overdrugged him. I kept asking over and over again, and that's what they do. They just get them to the point where they're catatonic. They're so grossly understaffed. They do not have actual MD physicians running these facilities, and unfortunately, I'm seeing the path happening. What's going on in Canada happening here in the United States, whether we want to admit it or not. If anyone really cares for their elderly loved ones, I would not recommend them going into a nursing home, because the stories I could tell you of how many times they overdosed my father, and unfortunately this last time was successful.
Sorry to hear that. Thanks for the call on that. Well, I mean, again, it's a sort of a cultural question. When people get burdensome, inconvenient, are suffering, because suffering is supposed to be a bad thing. There's no biblical understanding that suffering, there is good that comes from suffering.
We got a great text message. Dan and Amy, when people are depressed, the first thing we used to worry about is suicide. Now leftists seek to facilitate it.
Right. That's it. We used to worry about it. Now, if you've become, as I said, a bit burdensome, well, there's always this path.
And somebody also asked, what are the 10 states that have death with dignities laws? It's Oregon, Washington, Montana, Vermont, California, of course, Colorado, Washington, D.C., Hawaii, New Jersey, Maine, and New Mexico.
Yeah, and I'm sure Illinois is not too far behind.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
This is Dennis Prager. Sign up today for an unforgettable experience in Israel this October. Mike Gallagher and I are traveling to the Holy Land on the Stand with Israel tour with our trusted partner, Inspiration Cruises and Tours. This trip of a lifetime to Israel is one you don't want to miss. Register today before it's too late at standwithisraeltour.com. StandWithIsraelTour.com, StandWithIsraelTour.com, or call 855-565-5519. 855-565-5519.
Did you do it? Did you have enough fruits and vegetables yesterday? Maybe you have good intentions and you buy all this produce, put it in your refrigerator, and guess what? You never get to it. You mean to, but you don't. And that's why I take Balance of Nature, because that produce I buy ends up in the landfill. So 31 different whole fruits and vegetables, real food, real science, real nutrition, GMO, gluten-free, no preservatives, no dyes. The fruit capsules are red. The vegetable ones are green. And I like it. I've been taking it for a few years now, and I have the ability to keep doing the things that I love even as I age. Yes, we are all getting older. So get the nutrition your body needs and get the nutrition your body craves. Get Balance of Nature. The number to call is 800-246-8751. That's 800-246-8751. Be sure to use discount code Chicago. First timers get free shipping and 20% off, or simply go online to balanceofnature.com, discount code Chicago.
When your home or business has an insurance claim, the next step is very important. The claim process with insurance can be tedious, hard to understand, and difficult to navigate. You need someone working for you. You need a licensed claim adjuster. Why? The insurance company will send out their inspectors that work for them, get paid by them, and represent them, not you.
This is Dan Lights from Crosscom. We inspect your property, file your claim, negotiate the damages, and maximize your settlement with your insurance company. If we complete the repairs approved by your insurance company, our service is free. Crosscom Public Adjusters has turned denied claims into approved claims. We've also increased insurance claims anywhere from 23 to 1,000%. We are licensed by the Department of Insurance and work in Illinois, Northwest Indiana, and Southern Wisconsin. Crosscom Public Adjusters, 630-871-5500. Online at CrosscomInc.com. That's CrosscomInc.com. Crosscom, building trust for over 20 years.
Hi, I'm Henry Winkler. My eyes are very important to me. My eyes connect me with things I love. I loved my late father-in-law dearly. He always lit up a room, but his vision dimmed with age. He had age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. And since partnering with Apellis, I've learned there's an advanced form of the disease called geographic atrophy, or GA. His struggle with vision loss made me want to help others know about GA's warning signs. For some, straight lines seem wavy, like when looking at a door frame. For others, blurry or missing spots can make it hard to read or see loved ones' faces. Many have trouble seeing in low light, making driving at night difficult. GA gets worse over time and cannot be reversed. If you've been diagnosed with AMD and notice vision changes, don't wait. Talk to your eye doctor about GA today. Learn more at GAWon'tWait.com. That's GAWon'tWait.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Talking about the power of these cultural phenomena like gender-affirming care, quote-unquote, abuse in my vernacular, but that's what it's called, gender-affirming care, gender-affirming treatment, and talking about euthanasia as well. Let's go to Sue in Park Ridge on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hi. You know, I've been listening to what you've had to say, and I just want to make a comment that nothing's ever that black and white. I have a daughter who's 31 years old who is in hospice, and they cannot even control the pain in hospice, who doesn't have the ability to get better, doesn't have the ability to not be in pain anymore. And the thought that comments are made that people who consider euthanasia, who consider sedative palliation is murder and is wrong. I don't know if you've ever had a loved one. I don't know if you've had anybody that has suffered like this, but it's not as black and white as what you're saying. And I find
we're not talking about people in hospice. We're talking about children who are depressed, who want to have assisted suicide, basically.
Not talking just about that, actually. I'm talking more expansively, but go ahead, Sue.
Well, it's just when you were talking about palliation and how some countries are letting people die, or asking, it really, it's.
They're not letting people die. They're killing them.
Listen to me. I have a daughter who's in palliation, who's put into hospice. I know what they can do. I know when a child especially a young person, cannot do what they ask them to do when they physically cannot palliate the pain that they're in, that they have a cancer or they have some other something that they cannot touch. I don't know if you know the desperation of those people, but I do. I'm a mother who's taken care of somebody, who's brought somebody back several times to say, I think we can do it. And I've had doctors say, you know what, there's nothing less we can do. We can't even palliate the pain. You know, I think that I know your broader scope, but to make something like euthanasia or assisted suicide, which is available in some states, sometimes it's a last resort for people. I don't think you know the desperation. I don't think you do.
Well,
I really don't think you do.
I'm sorry that that's happened to your daughter, and I appreciate your call and sharing your view. I really do. Thank you for that. So I'm not saying that it's an easy situation, and seeing someone suffer or suffering yourself is not an easy situation. And yeah, I've had, family members in palliative care at the end of life.
Yeah, me too. It's awful.
But this is not to diminish the pain that Sue is going through or the pain that her daughter is in, and especially at a young age, 31. That's awful. It's to say, be very careful. Be very careful about sanctioning the state to kill people. And I'm sorry, but that's what this is doing. Palliative care, I'm talking about, you just heard from this activities book for grades 6 through 12. First, we stick them with this drug, and then this induces a coma, and then we deliver the lethal dose. That's not palliative care.
No, and then asking them, do you want to be with them? And, what do, it's just, that's not, yeah.
And what the real world experience is, you think you can limit the government to the extreme cases where everybody has empathy, like in Sue's case. And you can't. It doesn't work that way. The government there is no limiting principle when it comes to the government, unless you impose one. And they will not impose one because you have ideologues that, believe in all sorts of things that are ghoulish, like population control. We were just talking about one. His name is John Kerry. He said so explicitly. These are people who have in their mind too many people on this planet. We got to thin the herd to save the planet. This is how they actually think. These are pro-abortion on the front end, and they are pro Dr. Kevorkian on the back end. And it starts with hard cases. And you say, well, how can you force somebody to be put through that? I don't want to force anybody to be put through anything. However, I don't want to sanction the state because it goes from the terrible case, the Sue and Park Ridge case, or somebody suffering these brutal diseases like ALS always comes to mind. And then it goes to, a 17-year-old is depressed and doesn't want to live anymore. Okay, fire up the death machine.
They're going to abuse the system, so you got to be careful. All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
By the way, just one other thing on this. This piece by Brian Kaplan about the LGBTQ explosion. Over the course of 5 generations, bisexual identity has multiplied by a factor of 75. Lesbian identity is multiplied by a factor of 20. Trans by a factor of 10. Even gay identity is 6 times as common in Gen Z as it was among older generations. That is cultural. That is a social phenomenon in part. And so you get children into the business of witnessing and participating effectively in the killing of a loved one. You're going to see an explosion in the killing of loved ones at the hands of the state. I'm just telling you.
Very well said. All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
All things Illinois policy related with Ted Dabrowski, President Wirepoint, 737.
But now let's head into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
69 degrees, creeping up on 70 at 7:33. Chinese state media says days of unusually heavy rain around China's capital of Beijing has left 20 dead, 27 are missing. 16 workers are dead after the collapse of a crane at a highway construction site in the western India town of Thane, just outside Mumbai. Gas stations in Oregon are preparing for customers to pump their own gas. A new law passed by the legislature there will take effect this week. Oregon State Fire Marshal's office is coordinating with gas stations and owners to help people figure out how to pump their own gas. Hunter Biden's former business partner claims that the younger Biden would sometimes put his dad on speakerphone while meeting with business partners.
Devon Archer himself said that was an implication of who the big guy is.
Arizona Republican Andy Biggs, thousands of people across the country starting the week without jobs due to the abrupt closure of Yellow Freight.
When you pass 60 like me, it's like, come on, man, really? I'm thinking I'm about to retire in another year or two, and then you hit me with this here?
Executives at the nearly 100-year-old trucking firm informed managers of the operational shutdown over the weekend. One teen girl is dead, another wounded following a shooting on the south side. It happened last night in the 400 block of West 72nd. 37 teens were charged after a reckless gathering ensued in the city's South Loop. Sunday night, it happened in the 100 block of West Roosevelt Road. The head of the Chicago Department of Transportation is stepping down. CDOT Commissioner Gia Biaggi is announcing she's resigning from her post, the third major department head to leave City Hall since Brandon Johnson took over as mayor. Cubs lost to Cincinnati 6-5. White Sox take on the Rangers tonight. The news is a service of MyPillow. MyPillow employees want to thank you by giving you the lowest price in history on their MyPillows. Regular price for a queen pillow, $69.98. Now only $19.98 with promo code LIBERTY. A check of traffic and weather is on the way next on AM 560.
Charlie Kirk believes action should be taken.
I don't like impeachments. I don't think it should be done lightly. With that being said, we know impeachments are largely theater. We know that it's just largely performative. We have absolutely no choice but to pursue impeachment of Joe Biden and his cartel of criminals around him. We shouldn't celebrate this. It is 100% necessary.
The Charlie Kirk Show. Afternoons at 1, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
It's Reveille. During the pandemic, Illinois borrowed $4.5 billion from the federal government to cover unemployment costs. That entire amount, plus hundreds of millions more, were stolen, and no one has been fired over it yet. A scathing Illinois Auditor General report released last week says the amount of fraud was 2.5 times greater than originally estimated and totaled $5.24 billion. That's their first look. The amount could go even higher. Pritzker's response to the report is to shrug it off. Other states had fraud too, but like everything else, Illinois' fraud is worse. Pritzker's policies compounded the fraud by keeping workers at home and off the job longer and keeping enhanced payments in place when other states refused to. The Auditor General's report said IDS did not comply with all state and federal statutory and administrative requirements for processing and auditing claims. That's willful negligence, maybe even criminal. The IDS director, who failed to prevent massive fraud, got a new job as the head of the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. The outside contractors, who raked in $226 million, haven't been asked to account for their work either. Taxpayers were stuck again, forced to pay off the debt and millions in interest, while employers now are being taxed more to replenish the depleted fund. $5.24 billion could have paid for a lot more education, which the leftists always want to spend more on, but they're not saying a word about the fraud. Here's the solution: a blue ribbon panel of our best people at our world-class universities and experts from the financial and banking sectors to solve this problem once and for all. I'm Jeannie Ives. Tune in this Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m. on this station. I'll be discussing illegal immigrant crisis from a national and local perspective with Congressman Mark Green, chairman of the House Committee on Homeland Security, and Alderman Ray Lopez. To learn more, sign up for my newsletter at breakthrough-ideas.com. That's breakthrough-ideas.com.
7:38, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Accident on the outbound Edens, 2 left-hand lanes blocked. Outbound at Toohey, your stop and go from Montrose. The Kennedy, approaching an hour right now from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. On the outbound side of the Kennedy, it's a full half hour from downtown out to the big airport. Ike inbound, 48 now, 390 into the old post office. Stevenson jams solid between Harlem and Kedzie. You also have 47 minutes in from I-355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Dan Ryan sits at 24 minutes, 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Tri-State accident being cleared southbound just before Kedzie. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Partly sunny and 85 today. Clear and 68 overnight. 70 at O'Hare. Next news at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when you're moving out.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. That theme music means it's time for our weekly confab with Ted Dabrowski, president of wirepoints.org. All things Illinois policy related. Hey, Ted, I know some people weren't moving out, at least not yet. All those AFSCME members that just inked, well, it was inked on their behalf, that new 4-year deal, nice raises, modest health care premiums, taxpayers on the hook for another $630 million, which is, of course, a deal at twice the price for the kind of service we get from state and county employees and so forth.
No one could get that kind of raise. 19.2% raise.
Oh, well, you got to deal.
They won the lotto, Dan.
No, you got to deal with inflation. They do
right.
very difficult jobs and so on and so forth. There's no reason why they shouldn't continue to make 20 to 25% more than their private sector counterparts who are similarly situated in terms of job responsibilities, right, Ted?
Well, yeah, I mean, and there's a lot wrong with that. It's not really 19%, right? So it's 19% over 4 years, but it's much more than that because those are just the stated numbers for, moving from 1 year to the next. But people move up a step. Sometimes they move over what are called lanes.
Years of service.
There's a whole bunch of years of service. There's they have these massive pay grade upgrades. So they're moving a whole bunch of people from one grade to the next. They said thousands. We don't know the details, but they said thousands of people are jumping pay grades. And so the true number, we don't know what it is. But what I can tell you this, and here's why I think, and this is the whole part of the corrupt failure of Illinois, is that this class of workers, and I'm going to call them the government class, the ones that work for government, they get guaranteed contracts, right? This contract's a 4-year contract. In there are guaranteed raises. Merit doesn't matter. How hard you work doesn't matter. These are guaranteed raises. These same people have these guaranteed benefits within those contracts. Then you got the guaranteed pensions. You got this free AFSCME workers get free retiree health care after 20 years of work. So they can retire in their 50s, have full medical coverage until Medicare kicks in at 65. That's worth a ton of money. Nobody gets that in the private sector. So when you add all this stuff up, it's why Illinois is headed where it's going because not only does it happen for AFSCME, it happens for all the teachers, it happens for the all the workers. And so
well, I mean, if legislators get a 17% raise, which they voted themselves this past session, then why not bring up the state and local workers too?
Yeah, and it goes to your comment that you made earlier that everybody needs to be in, and that's how you do this in Illinois. Everybody needs to be participating in something, so that you always have this incentive to vote with the system as opposed to against it. And you look at Pritzker and these contracts. It's the same for the police and fire and teachers and everybody. Everybody has a hand in the jar, and nobody wants to pull it out.
Yeah, but I mean, firefighters and police officers, the FOP, they want the same sweet maternity leave deal that the CTU just got, 12 weeks for the mom and then for the dad.
Yeah, paid leave, paid. I mean, that's phenomenal.
That's a quarter of the season. I mean, the school year, when you think about how many days they're in school.
Yeah, and then if you think about it, they're also not in school for 3 months during the summer. So it's all part of the phenomenal packages that have left Illinois where it is financially.
Well, I mean, thinking about this too, just holistically. So you got a handful of Democrats who, and this was the case about a decade ago too. I remember, what did I call them? Chicago 7 or something. You got a handful of Democrats, constitutional offices, legislative leaders. They run everything. Mayor. Handful of Democrats that live within a few square miles of one another, and control about, I don't know, about $100 billion, $110 billion worth of government, and about 125,000 jobs. And it turns out that you control those kind of resources, then you control a state of 13 million people, and there's nothing anybody can do about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's pretty much how it is when you think about it. And I often argue this. You've got, it's amazing. You've got between workers and retirees, you've got 1.1 million actives and retirees from government across all the different governments. So when you think about the voting age, right, it's going to be a big proportion of it. Then you got husband and wives or close relatives, and you get this critical mass that will once they get the bullet points of how to support whether it's a progressive tax or whether it's a workers' rights amendment, you've got a critical mass of vocal supporters of policy and, of course, automatic voters. And that's where we've gotten to the point where you also look at how Pritzker hands out grants to all these different groups. Again, you got to buy everybody. They have skin in the game to keep the game going, and that's how it works.
BLM Brandon Johnson had an op-ed in the NPR Times. Speaking of state-run things like state-run media here. Hey, parents and students, make your voices heard this year at CPS. Yeah. What should they say? Give me back my scholarship so I don't have to send my kid to CPS?
Yeah. There's if you look at this transition team, they had a whole bunch of stuff. It's a long thing of all the goodies they want. And one of the big things in there was, of course, the education demands. And fascinating, of course, and not surprising, is that there was not a single thing about better outcomes. Not at all. I didn't see the word mentioned about outcomes. But what they did have is, hey, we want to get these kids engaged, get them engaged in the schools, and pay them for being vocal about what they want. And so it kind of goes back to this whole thing of Brandon Johnson again wanting to use government to hire more people, hire more kids, get the kids' voices. It's all the kids aren't motivated to ask for, we want better outcomes. They're motivated to ask for more stuff. And that's what you see in a lot of these transition reports and things like that. It's just give us more stuff.
Yeah, well, it seems Chicago's still falling apart at the seams. There was 40 teens charged after that smash and grab at the 7-Eleven on Roosevelt. We had 2 teen girls shot last night, one fatally. So don't you think a way to defund the police is to not hire police officers? Is that maybe a strategy that's working for Mayor Johnson's camp? Because there's no plan in place to hire more police officers or even move detectives or police officers into the detective division.
Kids are going to make silly decisions or being silly kids. Silly.
I still say this has nothing to do with the number of policemen. It's all about whether policemen are allowed to police, and whether their backs are covered. And you could add 1,000 more police right now. It doesn't matter. As long as these kids are allowed to do this, and we're not allowed to demonize the kids or call them out for it. then you could add all the police you want. It's the same thing as adding more teachers to CPS, right? It's worthless as long as the system's not working. So, the real root of the problem is again and I was just looking at some of the charges of these kids. One of the kids who got arrested the other night with that 7-Eleven uprising, let's call it, again, was out on ankle bracelet. They're just revolving doors. But so here you got a 17-year-old boy. So this is fascinating for all these kids, right? These kids are taking over. Maybe there's some good news in what happened the other night because they finally arrested a lot of kids. That's the first time we've seen that in a while in terms of mass.
But Ted, they only did because. Yeah, I'm sorry for interrupting, but the only reason why they arrested them is they told them, you're violating curfew, leave. And Fred Waller said yesterday, he said, well, normally when we tell them it's a curfew violation and we're going to arrest you, they leave. But this time they stayed and they continued fighting. And there's a 12-year-old there and an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old there.
We'll leave when we're done fighting. What's wrong with that?
I mean, literally, the cops are standing there. If you see the video, it's fascinating that they're just, throwing punches right in front of a cop, and then a cop's trying to arrest him. Is just chaos.
Yeah, 17-year-old boy charged with the unlawful use of a machine gun. A 15-year-old with a felony unlawful use of a weapon. A 16-year-old girl charged with unlawful use of a weapon. I mean, it's gone down to where you've got kids, young kids carrying arms, and they don't care. It's and they'll stick around even if the police is around. So. At least the good news is they acted, but is this just a one-off, or is there going to be a more serious attempt at doing something about it?
Well, we got some other good news with migrants being transported up from Texas to Chicago, for example, backfilling some of those open slots in CPS. How are the migrant kids doing?
I love it. They had this huge announcement a couple of weeks ago. Hey, we're gonna open up this open enrollment center to help the migrants come in and so that they have better education results. And I don't know why they don't check what they're doing, but the school that they chose to do the the welcoming, the enrollment process is called Robert Clemente Community Academy High School. And in that high school, just 5 of every 100 kids can read at grade level. 5 of every 100 can read at grade level. That means 95 can't. And then if you dig further into the detail, of those 95 kids who can't read at grade level, 70 of them are at the worst possible score. They're so far away from proficiency that this school is an absolute failure. And this is where Brandon Johnson is welcoming the migrant families. And I think it'd be
keep the bar low for them to clear.
Well, Dan, here's the easy argument. I mean, it's easy to say, don't even go to that school. Don't even go to those schools. You're better off not going to those CPS schools.
Well,
now they have 1,400 new kids, so that's going to fill a lot of vacancies that they've had.
Oh, yeah.
They love this. Are you kidding me?
Well, they can mill about in the hallways just like the indigenous kids that go to Clemente, right? I mean, what's the difference? They certainly have the room at most of these high schools. So.
Well, yeah, they do, and I think Amy's right. They want these kids because we've seen a dramatic drop in enrollment over the last 20 years, 125,000 fewer kids at CPS. And so this is like sometimes a celebrating that finally CPS is growing again. But look at how you have to grow. You have to basically have, Abbott send busloads of kids to Chicago for the school to actually grow.
Well, but that's your average daily attendance goes up. You get more money from the state. It's all good.
Right, it's a win-win.
This CPS isn't in the business of educating kids. I mean, so why? I don't even know why we measure it anymore, really. It's obvious, right? They're not in the business of educating children. They haven't been for a long time. So just recognize that and just treat it as, a jobs program for the adults. And that's what it is.
Yeah. In a daycare center for the kids.
Yeah,
and that's,
right.
Brandon Johnson's agreeing with you. He said that this testing is racist. We should stop it.
Exactly.
And I think, don't be surprised. I always worry that, the more that we talk about how bad these results are, I worry that they're going to yank that data from the system so that we can't monitor it anymore. And that would be one good way to solve it. Say these tests are racist, remove the scores, and now that we're all in the dark about what's really going on.
Ted Dabrowski, President of WirePoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Thanks, Ted.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one. Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
A storm is on the horizon, and you need to keep the lights on no matter what. Your business relies on the power being on 24/7. It's the lifeblood of your data and computer systems. Weather-related outages from the power company are not acceptable. Your need for a source of power that's reliable 24/7, along with round-the-clock service that can dispatch technicians to your site immediately, is mission critical. Your business needs Charles Equipment Energy Systems on speed dial. These are the big boys, not residential or solar, but reliable industrial generators for emergency backup or events. When you need more than a 100-foot extension cord plugged into a small engine generator, call Charles Equipment Energy Systems. They keep the lights on with rental generators for job sites or power outages. A storm is on the horizon. Plan ahead. Call now to prepare generators for storms and potential power outages. Call 630-834-6000, 630-834-6000, or charlesequipment.com.
Balance of Nature, changing the world one life at a time.
I think it's just a really good idea, simply because I have such a busy schedule that I can't always take care of all of my nutritional needs in the proper ways. I really like it. It's quite nice. I would say that I have more energy. I'm sleeping really well. With my schedule, I don't get quite enough sleep sometimes. And when that happens, I still can manage to have a normal day the following day. So I'm pretty well pleased with it.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. This week only, we're extending our special travel offer. Right now, get $25 off your first order as a preferred customer, plus a free fruits and veggies travel set with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Call 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code Chicago.
Hey Chicago, do you like great seats? How about on-field pregame access? What if it was free? Now we got your attention. We are proud to bring you the Wintrust Crosstown Series. Whether you're a Cubs or Sox fan, Wintrust wants you to have an unforgettable fan experience. Enter the Wintrust Crosstown Series sweepstakes for your chance to win great seats and pregame on-field access. Go to wintrust.com/crosstown. Chicago's Bank, getting Chicago's fans to the game. Banking products provided by Wintrust Financial Corp. Banks. See official rules at wintrust.com/crosstown-rules. Member FDIC.
Lots of channels, nothing to watch, especially if you're looking outside of big corporate control. It's time to interrupt your regularly scheduled programs with something worth watching. The new Salem News Channel. Straightforward, unfiltered, in-depth insight and analysis from the greatest collection of conservative minds, all in one place. SNC is home to Dennis Prager, Mike Gallagher, Sebastian Gorka, and more. Watch anytime on any screen. Free 24/7. Find what you're looking for at snc.tv.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. U.S. District Court Judge Norika was right to blow the whistle on this plea deal proposed for Hunter Biden by U.S. Attorney David Weiss. On rare occasions, a federal judge charged with reviewing plea agreement will reject the terms of that agreement. In a number of such cases, the disparity between the guidelines for sentencing and the agreed punishment is so great that it catalyzes the judge's review. The terms must pass this judicial sniff test. Hunter Biden's plea deal over tax and gun charges was ripe for rejection. Simply put, that deal stunk. What we've learned from the hearing raises a host of additional questions. Bargaining away even token jail time on the tax charges goes beyond lenience into outright unfairness, as does putting the gun charge out of the judge's review if she accepts the proposal. Signing off on this deal would have undercut the very premise of equal justice that sentencing guidelines were created to safeguard. I'm hoping Judge Norika presses back hard as the hearing continues.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, Doctors Economos, Gavalis, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidisciplined practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology, such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located in historic downtown Bartlett and is a multilingual office. Call 630-830-4930. That's 630-830-4930. Or visit bestdental.org. Best Dental Group, sharing your conservative values and helping you to conserve your teeth.
You can't live forever, but your legacy can. For over 185 years, families have trusted Catholic Cemeteries of Chicago, with 47 locations throughout Cook and Lake counties, to set their legacies in stone. A prepaid cemetery plan locks in today's prices and safeguards against rising inflation. Visit CatholicCemeteryChicago.org or call 708-236-5490 to schedule a free consultation today.
AM 560, The Answer.
Ooh, too soon? All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Is true happiness possible? No. But Gad Saad will tell me why I'm wrong. He's an evolutionary psychologist and professor at Concordia University up there in Strange Brewland. He's got a new book, The Saad Truth About Happiness, 808.
Oh, I see what he did there. All right, but now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
A criminal probe opened into a retired Cook County judge. Cubs make moves ahead of the trade deadline, but fall to the Redlegs, while the White Sox visit the Rangers on a partly sunny day with a high of 85. WIND Chicago News Time, 8.
His legal issues are not hurting him in the polls. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. It may be the opposite for former President Trump. A new New York Times Siena poll gives him a 37-point lead over Ron DeSantis in the Republican 2024 race. More than half of those polled won't even consider anyone else. The Trump lead in a new Morning Consult poll is 43 points. But DeSantis tells Fox the former president can't beat President Biden.
The polls that come out that put I beat Biden in Georgia, Trump doesn't. I beat Biden soundly in Arizona, Trump doesn't.
Though the New York Times poll has a Biden-Trump tie head-to-head. As for the Florida governor cutting staff and making campaign changes.
If you want to slay this administrative state, you got to be disciplined, you got to be focused, and you got to have people surrounding you that are going to go and support the mission.
House Republicans say they now have proof President Biden was involved in his son's business dealings, something he's denied. Congressman Jeff Van Drew tells Fox.
Joe Biden was the merchandise, and Hunter Biden was the salesman.
That's after Hunter Biden's ex-business associate, Devin Archer, told lawmakers they had then Vice President Biden on speakerphone talking to overseas business clients more than 20 times. But Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman says Archer admitted
there were niceties and there was a hello and we talked about the weather or whatever it was, but it was never any business.
Ukraine keeps fighting back against Russia, inside Russia, the day after a Russian missile strike in President Zelensky's hometown killed 6 people.
The mayor of Moscow says Ukraine has struck the same city's skyscraper twice in 3 days. Sergei Sobyanin claims while several drones were shot down overnight, one struck the Moskva city complex tower. An advisor to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has tweeted Moscow is rapidly getting used to a full-fledged war.
Fox's Jonathan Savage. Team USA is advanced to the Women's Soccer World Cup after a 0-0 tie this morning with Portugal. The American women will next play on Sunday. America's listening to Fox News.
71 degrees at 8:02 on AM 560, The Answer, and good morning. I'm Mike Scott. There will be a stronger pro-life law in Indiana beginning today. Indiana's new abortion law, which protects babies in the womb after 10 weeks and stops outpatient clinics from offering abortions, takes effect today. Now, a judge initially blocked that law for review, but a court later overturned that order. One teenage girl is dead, another wounded following a shooting on Chicago's South Side. Police say it was a group of kids gathering in the 400 block of West 72nd Street when shots were fired. A 16-year-old girl was shot in the back, taken to an area hospital where she was pronounced dead. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson appears ready to forge ahead in raising the real estate transfer tax on high-end homes to create a fund to fight homelessness. The increase would more than triple the transfer tax on homes that sold for more than $1 million. Chicago sports. Cubs on a 2-game losing streak following a 6-5 loss to the Reds at Wrigley, but they make an upgrade on the infield, getting Nationals third baseman Jeimer Candelario, former Cub. Third baseman is hitting .258 with 16 home runs, while the White Sox start a series in Dallas against the Rangers. The news, a service of Cabino Environmental. Home and business owners use the Cabino oil stain remover because it is the most powerful oil stain lifting formula on the market. Cabino oil stain remover is available at all 8 Rental Max locations. 8:03, time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. Now, the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Elizabeth McDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Uber Technologies earnings are stronger than forecast. The stock is rallying. It made its first profit earlier than expected. Uber is seeing more demand for trips, and it's been able to attract more drivers. Also, hotel company Marriott reported better than predicted earnings and revenue. But JetBlue is warning it will likely lose money in the current quarter. The airline, which has mostly domestic flights, is competing with demand for international long-haul travel. JetBlue also is being impacted by the loss of its Northeast alliance with American Airlines. Caterpillar saw strong demand for its machines in the recent quarter. Its earnings topped expectations by a wide margin. Caterpillar says it saw higher sales volume and it was able to charge more. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Coselda, invested in you.
8:05, a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Brandon Tatum says stand your ground.
People on our side need a reality check too. You gotta stop jumping on the bandwagon. And you gotta stop being so fickle. Don't jump ship and say, oh man, look at him, all this other stuff. Hold true to what your initial conviction is unless it's been proven otherwise.
The Officer Tatum Show. Weeknights at 7, right before Jay Sekulow at 9 on AM 560. The Answer.
When this is the sound of a waterfall in nature, there's no cause for concern. But when it's the sound of water gushing through your living room ceiling because a pipe bursts inside the wall, there's reason to panic unless you pick up the phone and call 1-800-SERVPRO. Only the cleanup and restoration specialists at ServPro can help make fire and water damage like it never even happened. So make the call to 1-800-SERVPRO at the first sign of water damage. Franchises are independently owned and operated.
Hi, I'm Test Director Rick from ServPro, the leader in cleaning, restoration, and construction. It's my job to make sure our pros are prepared for anything. Storm damage? Fixed. Flood damage? We're on it. Fire damage? Not anymore. Aliens? What? Aliens? We cleaned those sites a while ago. No matter the disaster, our pros will make it like it never even happened. Find out why ServPro is the #1 choice for residential and commercial restoration projects, large and small. Visit servpro.com today.
David in Pennsylvania writes in to tell us about his experience with Relief Factor. I tried Relief Factor for hip pain and was surprised that it also helped relieve my shoulder and foot discomfort. After taking it for a month, I stopped, and sure enough, the pain returned. So I started taking Relief Factor again, and within a week, the pain was relieved. I'm now taking Relief Factor daily. Well, thank you, David. You know, I've heard your story before, people stopping and then starting again because it works. As you all know, I had trouble with aches and pains, and climbing steps was brutal. Your first step to living the life you love, free from aches and pains, could just be to order the 3-week Quick Start for the highly discounted price of $19.95. After trying Relief Factor, over 500,000 people have gone on to order more. Try it for yourself and see what all these people are talking about. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF to find out more about this offer. That's 800-4RELIEF. Live your best life and feel the difference with Relief Factor.
8:07. Let's get an update on the roads now. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Eden's right now tracking at about 26 minutes. Lake Cook Road to the junction, the Kennedy inbound. It's an hour from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Ike Inn, it's an hour from 390 into the old post office. Stevenson, 51 minutes. from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive, jam solid Harlem all the way into the Ryan Merge. Inbound Dan Ryan, 25 minutes, 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Slowdowns on the Reagan eastbound between Roosevelt and the Tri-State. I-80 accident, left lane block westbound between Kedzie and Ridgeland. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Partial sun today, the high 85, clearing tonight, low 68, and then partly sunny for tomorrow, the high 86. Tomorrow night, partly cloudy, low 66, sun and clouds, humid day Thursday, high Thursday afternoon, 89. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
72 at O'Hare, 72 Midway. Your next news update is at 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Talking about happiness. Well, fulfillment. You derive happiness from fulfillment. And I thought this conversation between Ben Shapiro and Vodi Buckham, we've had on the show before. He's a dean of a Christian college in Zambia by way of Los Angeles, and he's really one of the most powerful Christian speakers out there. If you haven't checked out his sermons, you should. And check out his most recent book, Fault Lines. You should do that, too. Vodi Buckham talking about sort of men in crisis, his perspective. We struggle in the current culture to define what a woman is, or at least some of us do. Some Supreme Court justices do. What does it mean to be a man?
You know, when you take manhood and try to look at manhood in isolation, you've already got a problem. The God who created us, he created us male and female. And so you cannot understand maleness apart from femaleness, right? You have to understand what it means to be a man, first of all, by what it means to be made in the image of God, and second of all, by what it means to be made as this counterpart to a woman. And this idea that God created us to be priest, and prophet, and provider, and protector. God designed us that way. And when you take us away from that, like, you know, we're bigger than women, we're stronger than women, you know, we have all of these things that allow us to take advantage of women. They get pregnant, you know, we don't. We can just walk away from it and, you know, leave them with that. There are so many things that if left unchecked, they do allow for this toxic version of masculinity. And so what we have to call men back to is this understanding of manhood that is outside of themselves. And you being a man is not just about who you think you are or even who you want to be. It is about you pointing back to the one who made you. It's about you pointing back to the purpose for which he made you. And it's about you pointing back to the relationship that he intends for you to have with the opposite sex. And, you know, one of the things you mentioned is men not wanting to be married. That's an incredibly important part of the picture of what it means to be a man. This idea that we would be in a relationship, that we would be the head of a household, that we would be, like I said, priest, prophet, provider, protector within that context. All of that gives us not only purpose, but it gives us greater understanding of what masculinity is all about. And it also keeps it in check, and it protects women. That's the irony of all of this. You know, people are fighting against the patriarchy. People are fighting against marriage. People are fighting against traditional roles. And the result is you leave women unprotected and you leave men unchecked to do whatever they will with those women.
So unprotected and unchecked. That sounds like a bad recipe, especially for happiness for either side. for more on that, we're pleased to be joined by Gad Saad. He is the evolutionary psychologist and professor in the John Molson School of Business at Concordia University in Canada. He's also the host of the YouTube series The Saad Truth and author of the new book, as we previewed, The Saad Truth About Happiness, 8 Secrets for Leading the Good Life, which is available now, so pick it up. Gad Saad, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Nice to be with you again, Dan.
What do you make of what Vodi Beckham had to say?
Well, I mean, of course, as an evolutionary psychologist, it is fundamental quest to study evolved sex differences, right? We are a sexually dimorphic species, which is fancy language for the fact that there are 2 phenotypes, male and female, and we are similar on many things, but quite different on others. And the things that we are different on stem from differing evolutionary pressures. So, for example, when it comes to mating, men and women do not incur the same costs when they make a mate choice. Precisely what the gentleman said in your piece. Women get pregnant, not men. Therefore, the minimal obligatory parental investment that is required of women is extraordinarily greater than it is for men. And that's why we see many of the sex differences that we see. And so once you start creating a narrative, as we have today, where, the most fundamental features of our biology are being questioned, our reality are being questioned, that can't lead to a happy state. I mean, and that's why I originally wrote, if you remember a few years ago, The Parasitic Mind, where I was talking about how idea pathogens can parasitize our mind. And so being grounded in reality is a sure pathway to happiness.
But I don't know if Vodi mentioned it. I think a big change that I've noticed over the years is that women need to let their men be men. Because we're raised being told, oh, you can be independent, you don't need a man to make you happy. But in actuality, I think you do at some level. And I think that women need to let their men do things that they used to be able to do.
Right. So I wrote an article several years ago on my Psychology Today column called, I think the title was, Is Toxic Masculinity a Valid Concept? And there what I was arguing is exactly to your point, Amy. I was saying that, look, both men and women look in particular attributes in one another, again, precisely for key evolutionary reasons. So around the world, studies have been done in extraordinarily varied societies, and we find the exact same things that men desire in an ideal male, and vice versa. There is no culture where men recurringly prefer to mate with postmenopausal women more than 25-year-old women. There is no culture where women say, give me an apathetic, lazy, unemployed guy who shows no ambition, who is not willing to protect me. That gets my juices flowing, right? So these mating preferences are universal precisely because they solve recurring evolutionary problems. And so to pathologize half of humanity called man, to pathologize masculinity is, again, not a good pathway to happiness.
Well, when you, in this new book, The Saad Truth About Happiness, you talk about living the life you want, not necessarily the life expected of you. Build that out for us. What does that mean?
Right. So in one of the ending chapters, I talk about the psychology of regret. And one of actually my former professors in my PhD, his name is Thomas Gilovich, differentiated between 2 types of regret. Regret due to action. So I regret that I cheated on my wife and now my marriage is over, versus regret due to inaction. I wish I would have, pursued my interests in the arts. That's what I should have been. And it turns out that over the long term, the most looming regrets that we feel are those due to inaction. And so I wake up at 80 years old. I became an accountant because my dad was an accountant and his dad was an accountant. But the reality is I always wanted to be an artist. And now this looming regret, the inauthentic life that I have lived because I was adhering to other people's expectations, will haunt me in my last years. And so to live an authentic life is to recognize what will make you happy, whether it be professionally, socially, whatever it is, and to the best of your abilities to live it, because there's nothing worse than sitting on the proverbial porch when you're 85 years old and look back and say, what if I could have.
So you think true happiness is possible?
I do think true happiness is possible. So the general research shows that roughly 50% of our differences in happiness scores come from our genes, right? So some of us have sunny dispositions, others have less sunny dispositions. But the good news there is that still leaves 50% open for, up for grabs, right? So the types of choices that we make, which spouse I choose, which profession I pursue, the types of mindsets that we adopt. For example, I talk in the book about adopting a playful mindset in life. I call it, the chapter is titled Life as a Playground. So the types of mindsets that we adopt can move us on the happiness continuum. So irrespective of where you start in terms of your disposition, we could always improve in terms of our happiness.
How important is culture, do you think, in terms of your individual happiness? There was this interesting piece in the Atlantic. I don't get to say that very much anymore. But it was about the de-churching, the Great De-Churching, which is a book by a scholar from the Keller Center and a teaching pastor and so forth. And they just talk about why people aren't going to church anymore. And one of the arguments is that essentially contemporary America isn't set up to promote mutuality, care, or a common life. It's designed to maximize individual accomplishment as mainly defined by professional or financial success. So it atomizes us, and it leaves us not seeing much value in spending the time to have a faith life, because all the rewards come from that individual professional and financial success. Is that sort of, I mean, first of all, you have to accept the premise that that's a fair description of our culture. But if it is, how impactful is that culture?
Right. So I do discuss in the book a whole bunch of correlates to happiness, one of which is religiosity. So to your point, there is a moderate positive correlation between religiosity and happiness, meaning that on average, people who are religious are happier. And again, to your point, that need not be for a supernatural reason. It could be for very earthly reasons. It's because religious people, as you said, are going to have greater communality. They have greater demarcation between the in-group and the out-group. They have greater sense of cohesion. And so for all sorts of earthly reasons, being faith-based is going to bring you a bit more bang for your buck in terms of happiness. That said, though, I'm quick to immediately point out, I don't want people who are not, religious to despair that, they're doomed to not be as happy. There are all sorts of ways for the people who are not faith-based to also to exhibit reverence to the spiritual, to have awe-inspiring moments, right? I mean, I could meet a random stranger on the street and we can get caught up in an incredible serendipitous 30-minute conversation that allows us to create this, atomized, as you said, communion between us without couching it in a supernatural or in a, faith-based narrative. So yes, religiosity increases our happiness, but I think we can have spiritual experiences void of religion as well.
Now, Dan's 50 or 51. He's not married, but you write in your book that...
Thanks.
Sorry.
The profiling. Sure.
But you write in your book that marriage is so important to happiness. Can you explain that?
Well, look, again, to draw from the well of evolutionary psychology, humans face a conundrum in the sense that we've both evolved to engage in long-term coupling, i.e. marriage. That's just the scientific term, right? So, and the reason for that is simple, is because we are a biparental species. Human dads invest very heavily in their children, unlike most other mammals. And so it makes perfect sense for nature, for evolution, to have created the mechanisms of attachment between a man and a woman, which is then instantiated via a marriage. Now, here's the conundrum. We've also evolved the desire to stray. So I have a chapter on variety seeking, which includes, food variety seeking, intellectual variety seeking, and also sexual variety seeking. And so, on the one hand, we've evolved a deep desire to be in a monogamous union, but we've also evolved at least the penchant to stray. Now, whether you stray or not depends on each individual's moral compass, but it's a very, very difficult line to cross. And by the way, it's not just men who've evolved a desire for sexual variety. There's all sorts of research that shows that women also experience that instinct, albeit not to the same extent as men. So being in a long-term union with a partner who's going to, be your biggest champion is a good thing in life, right? I lost tons of weight. I mean, really, I think I lost 86 pounds. I wouldn't have been able to do it without a supportive wife because she was tracking my, dietary intakes every day. So having a partner who's your biggest champion is a good thing.
See, I'm from the Mr. Burns school from The Simpsons, that family, religion, friendship, these are the three demons you have to slay to be successful in business and radio. So that's why maybe that's where I got off track a little bit.
But you're exactly right. I mean, about the friendship part in that towards the end of the book, I have a quote coming from the Harvard adult development longitudinal study that's been going on, I think, for 80 plus years. And what they found, the number one thing that they found that is relevant in terms of our happiness, our mental health, our physical health, is the quality of relationships that you have. It actually predicts your well-being more than do your cholesterol scores at the age of 50. So if you want to live a long, happy life, it is literally the case that you have to foster those good relationships that you're speaking about, Dan.
All right, so I'm going to keep my friends, and I'm going to consider going on The Bachelor, but I'm not making a commitment yet. Gad Saad, he's an evolutionary psychologist and professor in the John Molson School of Business at Concordia University, up there in Strange Brew Land. He's also host of the YouTube series, The Saad Truth, and author of the new book, The Saad Truth About Happiness, 8 Secrets for Leading the Good Life. And he mentioned it. I should have. The Parasitic Mind previous book of his is excellent, so you should pick that up, too, when you pick up The Saad Truth About Happiness. Gad Saad, thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Loved our conversation. Cheers.
Thank you, and congratulations on your weight loss. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors in Roselle. Summer is here, which is the ideal time to brighten things up around the house and let the sunshine in. Make the rooms in your house that appear small, dark, or dingy look better and bigger with larger windows or patio doors. Our highly skilled craftsmen can enlarge openings if your space allows. For decades, Woodland has been transforming living spaces with Marvin windows, featuring styles ranging from modern to traditional. Marvin replacement windows and doors can also bring your backyard right into your living space. Ask us about connecting the inside to the outside. When you welcome a Woodland sales expert into your home, you'll get a product expert, a design consultant, a budget hawk, and someone who has your best interest in mind. Our professional services, along with the best products and installation, are why we are proud of our great online reviews. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
Are you considering a unique way to enhance your investment knowledge this year? Then sign up today for the all-inclusive Eagle Financial Publications Cruise. Along with our trusted partner, The Money Show, we're setting sail this December to explore some of the most beautiful and unspoiled destinations in the Caribbean. But this is no ordinary vacation. It's a chance to learn from top Eagle financial experts like best-selling authors George Gilder, Mark Skousen, and others who will be hosting a series of workshops and seminars throughout the trip. Imagine lounging on the sun deck while discussing investment strategies with like-minded individuals, or enjoying a gourmet dinner at the same table with one of our leading financial authorities. This once-in-a-lifetime cruise is a perfect way to combine education and relaxation to achieve your investment goals. This cruise will sell out quickly, so visit EagleFinancialCruise.com today to learn more and to secure your cabin. That's EagleFinancialCruise.com. Eagle Financial is a division of Salem Media Group.
So how do they do it? Well, they take the fruits and vegetables and they put them through an advanced vacuum cold process, which stabilizes the maximum nutrient content, and it's powdered and then put into capsules. I take 6 capsules a day, 3 fruits, 3 veggies, because it's real food and real nutrition. You know, when you give your body the best possible fuel, guess what? You have more energy. You're stronger. You think more quickly. So be one of the cool kids and get your bottles of fruits and veggies today and get the nutrition your body needs. It's so important. Good nutrition is the foundation of all aspects of health. The number to call, 800-246-8751. That's 800-246-8751. Use discount code Chicago or simply go online to balanceofnature.com. Discount code Chicago.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Amanda Zanger, owner of Black Industrial and Safety Supply in Hammond, Indiana, and a business customer of Signature Bank. Prior to owning my own business, I worked for a major financial institution. So when it came time to finance the acquisition of Black, I approached a big bank, only to receive a solid no. That's when Signature Bank stepped in. With Signature Bank, the process was different. Signature provided creative financing options that enabled me to purchase Black and continue to grow the business. Thanks to Signature Bank, Black Industrial is able to continue serving Fortune 500 industry fabricators and contractors with tools and safety supplies as we have since 1893.
Signature Bank is looking for their next success story. To learn more about turning your business vision into reality, visit signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
There are more than 50 million people enslaved in the world today. Most of them are women and children.
They lock you in cellars or in rooms with no windows. 95% of girls that are born in the brothels remain trapped in the brothels for the rest of their lives.
SOS International is working to make freedom possible for these women and kids. And with your help, today can be the day another victim comes into freedom.
By the hundreds, we are saving those girls and bringing them to a secure place, a place that is a safe home for them to grow in.
Just $150 makes freedom possible for a trafficking victim. It provides shelter, food, counseling, everything they need to start a new life. Make freedom possible now. Visit 560theanswer.com/SOS. Every day that goes by is another day of suffering and abuse. But you can change it now. You can make today the day of freedom and rescue. Learn how you can bring freedom now at 560theanswer.com/SOS.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and Amy, we've got some breaking news here. Babylon Bee is reporting that Joe Biden is making things up to his 7th grandchild by appointing her head of a Ukrainian shell company.
That's good.
That is good. Babylon
Maybe
Bee's
it's
good.
better off if they stay away from her.
Wait till he introduces her to the Chinese communists. Then she's really going to be sitting pretty.
Oh, she'll be loving being on that payroll at the age of 4.
Yeah.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
There's my distribution, Grandpa. Julie Kelly joins us, Declassified with Julie Kelly. There's a DOJ official who could have stopped the Biden Inc. operation years ago, and his name is Jack Smith, the special prosecutor in the Trump cases coming. We'll discuss that with Julie Kelly at 8:38.
But now let's head straight into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
8:31, and right now partly to mostly sunny and 72. Former President Trump apparently preparing for another indictment, quote, any day now, end quote, as part of the investigation into his efforts to stay in power after the 2020 election. Posting on Truth Social this morning, Trump called it an attempt to cover up allegations of bribes and payoffs aimed at President Biden and family. A Hunter Biden friend and associate contradicting President Biden's claim he was never involved in his son's business.
In a closed-door hearing Monday, Devin Archer told members of Congress the president was on more than 20 different business calls with, in his words, sell the brand. Democrats in the meeting say while he was on the phone, Archer's testimony never indicated the president directly impacted his son's dealings. Last week, Hunter Biden pleaded not guilty to federal tax charges after a judge rejected a proposed plea deal. I'm Mark Mayfield.
A suspected serial killer will appear in court this afternoon on Long Island. Rex Heuermann is being held without bail after pleading not guilty to charges connected to the murder of 3 women whose bodies were found more than a decade ago. Police in North Carolina now saying a man accused of plowing an SUV into a group of migrant workers didn't do it on purpose. It happened Sunday afternoon outside of a Walmart near Charlotte. 6 workers were taken to the hospital, all with non-life-threatening injuries. The suspect fled the scene but later turned himself in, telling investigators he accidentally hit the gas, pulling into a parking space, and police investigators have confirmed that story. There will be a stronger pro-life law in Indiana beginning today. Indiana's new abortion law protecting babies in the womb after 10 weeks stops outpatient clinics from offering abortions. Takes effect today. A judge initially blocked that law. A court under review later overturned that order. One teenage girl is dead, another wounded following a shooting on the south side. A group of kids were gathering on the street last night in the 400 block of West 72nd when shots were fired. A 16-year-old girl was hit in the back, taken to a nearby hospital, later pronounced dead. A pilot is dead following a helicopter crash in southern Illinois. A Vietnam-era aircraft went down in a field near Oakdale. The pilot was the only person on board. Investigators believe the Bell UH-1 Iroquois, commonly known as a Huey, hit power lines, causing it to crash. And if you hear a loud noise from a jet today, or it may be due to a NASA research project. According to NASA's Armstrong Flight Research Center, their DC-8 aircraft will fly at low altitude over the Chicago area today from mid-morning to mid-afternoon. The aircraft will be collecting data on air quality and sources of pollution. Cubs lost to the Reds 6-5 at Wrigley Field. Cubs make an upgrade on the infield right at the MLB trade deadline, sending prospects to the Nationals for infielder and former Cub Jahmyr Candelario. The news service of MyPillow, queen-size MyPillow regular price is $69.98. Now only $19.98 with promo code LIBERTY. That's promo code LIBERTY. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher isn't sure what to think.
Your concern is that the Ukrainians, who've received tens of billions of U.S. tax dollars, don't have enough tanks. Where's the concern for the United States in that?
Tucker, I've heard that routine from you before, but that's not my concern.
I don't think "that's not my concern" means what Mike Pence thinks it means. And I don't have a clue.
The Mike Gallagher Show. Weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Balance of Nature, changing the world one life at a time.
My son was saying, "Mom, why are you paying so much for this? The supplement store has the exact same thing." And I said, "No, they don't." You know, because he was telling me that they have similar products as Balance of Nature. But then when he came over to my house and he looked at the label of the Balance of Nature about all the, ingredients and everything, he realized, oh yeah, this is a superior product.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. This week only, we're extending our special travel offer. Right now, get $25 off your first order as a preferred customer, plus a free fruits and veggies travel set with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Call 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Tune in every Saturday afternoon at 3 for the Money Hour Radio, brought to you by Pierre Shale Financial Group. Learn estate and tax planning strategies, choosing the right IRA, and the ever-important decision when to take Social Security benefits. When you have retirement in sight, sound decisions are critical. Tune in to the Money Hour Radio every Saturday afternoon at 3, right here on AM 560, brought to you by Pierre Shale Financial Group.
Advisor services offered through Pierre Shale Financial Group Incorporated. Pierre Shale Financial Group Incorporated is a registered independent investment advisor.
8:37. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. A service of Lowe's. Don't miss the final days to save during the store-wide truckload event at Lowe's. Right now, save on major appliances and get an additional 10% off in-store clearance appliances. Lowe's knows home improvement while supplies last. Selection varies by location. See Lowe's.com for details. Inbound Edens, 31 Lake Cook Road to the junction. Inbound Kennedy at an hour and 18 from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. On the Ike, accident left shoulder inbound at Ridgeland. Your travel time at an hour 7 from 390 into the old post office. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Partly sunny and a high of 85. Right now, 72. Next news at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So, Baby Boy Hunter's former business partner, Devin Archer, convicted felon, testified behind closed doors to the House Oversight Committee yesterday as scheduled, finally.
And he made it there safely, Dan.
Yeah, he did not get knocked off on his way there. There were no Archduke Franz Ferdinand moment. And Jim Comer, chairman of that House Oversight Committee, had this to say about his testimony on Hannity's program last night.
Well, Devin Archer testified that they were influence peddling. We've wondered what the business was. I suspected it was influence peddling, but we heard today from someone on the inside. It was influence peddling. They sold Joe Biden. That's what the business was. And Joe Biden himself talked to every single person that has wired money to the Bidens. I mean, you've got a situation here where you look at those people who were wiring the money. A lot of those people aren't the most credible people in their countries. There are a lot of people who are in a lot of trouble in many of these countries who were sending wires to the Biden family. They needed help. They needed help from the government. That's why they paid the Biden family. They were influence peddling.
So what does that mean for the big guy?
But what this did today, in my opinion, is open the door. Did Joe Biden violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act? Because he was an active participant in at least one deal we know of with the Burisma deal. He was actively participating in doing a benefit to this foreign agent for this foreign country, and he was withholding American tax dollars in the form of foreign aid for that. I mean, this is very serious. Today took a huge step towards implicating Joe Biden.
But not according to the loyal opposition. That would be embodied by Representative Dan Goldman from New York, who, you know, is a moron.
Well, he said they talked about the weather.
Doesn't that contradict the president's statement saying that he never talked to any of Hunter Biden business associates? Clearly he talked, whether it's about the weather or whatever, but he said specifically that he's never talked to them. Doesn't this contradict them?
I don't know what his comment is, and if we're gonna, well, I don't think that's what he said. He never said that he has never spoken to anyone. He said that he had nothing to do with Hunter Biden's business dealings. If he says hello to someone that he sees his son with, is he supposed to say, "Hi, son"? Oh, no, I'm not going to say hello to the other people at the table or the other people on the phone. It's kind of a preposterous premise to think that a father should not say hello to people that the son is at dinner with, and that is literally all the evidence is.
And Dan Goldman continued.
Why are you pointing the finger at other people all the time? Why don't you point the finger at yourself? Do a little more reading, maybe. Less time in court. Maybe that would be effective for you.
Pardon me for saying this, but you seem defensive.
I'm not being defensive. You're the one who's being defensive. Why is it always the other person who's being defensive? You ever asked yourself that? Why don't you ask yourself that?
It's a good question. I think Dan Goldman's comments should be accompanied by a laugh track, by the way. But see, the thing about that, the statement he made, which is untrue and an insult to your intelligence, is intended to be an insult to your intelligence.
Right.
It's intended to say, you think you're going to deliver a reckoning to one of ours?
You're not. Yeah, that's what he's saying.
We'll decide when Joe Biden is done, not you. And we'll say the most ridiculous thing, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's the attitude, which is why you get such absurd statements. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Julie Kelly. Her Substack is Declassified with Julie Kelly. She's the author of January 6th, How Democrats Used the Capitol Protest to Launch a War on Terror Against the Political Right. And she reminds us in a recent piece that Jack Smith, this is a name that has a history with the Bidens, or could have, but chose not to pay attention to all that was going on back in, well, we know going back at least 20 years, maybe longer. Julie Kelly, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Thanks for having me on in that great clip of Martin Short.
Oh, that was Martin Short? I thought that was Dan Goldman. So, yeah, Nathan Thurm. It's a classic. So what do we know about Jack Smith, his previous iteration before, one of his previous iterations professionally before he was anointed special?
Of 2015. So as the Biden family crime racket was putting all of its players together, including international quote-unquote businessmen in Ukraine and China, in Romania, and even Russia, Jack Smith was in charge of this powerful unit that is supposed to root out, investigate, and prosecute public corruption cases. So instead of paying attention to Hunter Biden and Devin Archer and Chris Hines, remember the stepson of then Senator John Kerry and then Secretary of State, so they are the ones who had Rosemont Seneca, this outfit that was sweeping up millions of dollars around the world. Instead of paying attention to that and say the 70 or so odd trips that Hunter Biden took with his father, the big guy, on Air Force Two, including 6 trips to China, Jack Smith, who we're told is the most eagle-eyed, fair-minded, apolitical federal prosecutor since, Robert Mueller, ignored all of this, which was resulting in major headlines in the summer of 2014. Instead, he was focused on, the governor of Virginia and his wife maybe taking gifts that they shouldn't have and unsuccessfully prosecuting Democratic Senator John Edwards. So Jack Smith now already indicted Donald Trump twice for mishandling classified documents allegedly, and now is going to probably hand down another criminal indictment on another matter today. But no questions for Jack Smith's office about why he ignored what the Biden family was doing as he was head of this unit for almost 4 years.
So I'm sure Jack Smith knew what was going on, but don't you think President Obama at the time knew what was going on?
There's no doubt he had to have known. And of course, he's the one who put Joe Biden in charge of Ukraine. And, it's important, too, to remember. So people are saying, Joe Biden had nothing to do with this. Hunter Biden, a few months after being kicked out of the Navy for failing a drug test, just suddenly became an international energy expert and learned the Ukrainian language and was going to be so valuable. What happened in April 2014 when Zlochevsky, who is the head of Burisma, put Hunter Biden and Devin Archer on the quote-unquote board, $23 million in Burisma assets had been frozen in the UK, and the UK was going to conduct an investigation into money laundering because Zlochevsky was close with the former president of Ukraine who had just been thrown out of office in this revolution. So they were going to conduct an investigation. The EU was going to conduct an investigation. Of course, Ukraine was already going to conduct an investigation. So what happens when they hire Hunter Biden, Devin Archer, his business partner, tied to Chris Hines, the then stepson of the Secretary of State, John Kerry? Suddenly a judge throws that case out of court. The $23 million is unfrozen, and all these investigations into Burisma go away. Of course, then we know what happened after that is that Joe Biden threatened to withhold $1 billion in military assistance and U.S. aid if they didn't fire Viktor Shokin, the Ukrainian prosecutor who's still hot on the heels of Burisma.
And what do you make of, and if you have any more color on this than what we already know, of the FBI asset that was inside that universe in Ukraine and seemed to, I wouldn't say substantiate, but certainly claimed that the Zlochevsky, the Ukrainian oligarch, head of Burisma, paid both the big guy and Hunter $5 million in transactions that you'll never be able to trace. What are we to make of that, or is that just going to be pending whatever the House Oversight Committee is able to come up with?
I mean, I think that will be a big part of validating this notion that we all know that Hunter Biden was leveraging not just his father's last name, but direct access to his father as vice president and then former vice president to influence American policy. What Burisma was doing not only to get out from under these international investigations and freeze assets that had been withheld was also to get a foothold in U.S. energy policy, and that is what that FBI form really detailed, is that they were trying to find U.S. energy company that they could also purchase and get a foothold here. So the fact that at the time they're working with this corrupt country, we know that Ukraine is like just a money laundering operation for, of course, our national security apparatus and those around the world, is a very unstable country taking advantage eagerly of an also unstable young man, Hunter Biden, and his father, who was, trying to enrich himself and sweep up millions of dollars to live the lifestyle that so many in Washington, D.C. do, and he didn't, but now he does.
Well,
so.
and of course Obama knew, and that whole power structure that's still in place, and the Biden administration knew because they were asked about it. I mean, they were asked about it in the campaign in 2008. They were asked about it later in the administration when he got the appointment to Burisma. Jay Carney was asked about it. Matt Lee asked Jen Psaki about it. Matt Lee from Associated Press. So, I mean, they were asked about it. It's not credible to think that they didn't have any conversations about what Joe and Hunter and Biden Incorporated is doing and how we're going to handle it and what we're going to say and what we're going to have our flacks that are public facing say to the press. Of course they discussed it.
They absolutely did, and I thank you for bringing that up. I articulate those questions in my piece on my Substack, is that the White House was under fire. The State Department, Jen Psaki was the spokeswoman at that point, they were getting direct questions about Hunter Biden's new role as a board member. There were headlines everywhere, from the Wall Street Journal to the Washington Post. I mean, this was heavily covered in May of 2014, which again, why Jack Smith wasn't paying attention to it. But also, there's no way that Barack Obama and the Oval Office did not understand what was going on here. And so, of course, and you know this too, Dan and Amy, there have been articles for years, I mean, major articles in the New Yorker and the New York Times, and, before the election of 2020 about Hunter Biden's problems and then, this overseas grip that he had going while he was traveling with his father at taxpayers' expense. And look, this was also confirmed in the plea documents that we saw last week. Hunter Biden's own attorneys confirmed that he was getting money from the Chinese, that he was getting money from Ukraine, he was getting money from Romania. So it's not a fabrication of James Comer or anyone else in Republicans in the House. This has been now confirmed by his own attorneys in that sweetheart plea deal that we learned about last week.
The other thing you write about, interestingly, you're talking about the possibility that Trump could be indicted again related to January 6th by Jack Smith as soon as today. The idea that Jack Smith would move for pre-trial detention of the former president post-indictment, well, that would be a moment. That would really be something.
No way.
What's the theory behind that?
I know people are skeptical, but look, I've covered this D.C. federal courthouse, these prosecutors, and more importantly, these judges for over 2 years. You cannot put anything past Jack Smith or this DOJ, and D.C. judges of both parties, by the way, act as nothing more than a rubber stamp. But there is precedent now. I talk about a key ruling by Beryl Howell, the then chief judge, Obama appointee, who handed down basically special no bail rules for January 6th defendants. Aside from that ruling, there is precedent to deny bail for defendants, nonviolent defendants, being charged, for example, obstruction of an official proceeding, which is probably my guess, the first felony count that Jack Smith will hand down against Donald Trump. I'm not saying it's inevitable. I'm saying that it's possible, and people should prepare for it. Because, look, the Biden regime and the Democrats has created this bloodlust on the left and the Democratic Party base that will only be satisfied not with Donald Trump in handcuffs, but him behind bars. These trials are not going to proceed before the November 2024 election.
Right.
Even if he's convicted, he won't be sentenced. They want, and they've created an expectation that they're going to see Donald Trump behind bars, and this is one way to get it, and it will be easy to do in that D.C. federal courthouse.
Just when you
Can
think,
you imagine?
just
Oh my
when you
gosh.
think the Democrats can't do a bigger solid to Donald Trump with respect to his electoral interests, hold him pre-trial detention. Oh
Well, that's
my
what Biden
God.
wants. I mean,
You
Biden's trying to keep his son out of jail and put Trump in jail.
Yeah, well, every Republican primary opponent might as well suspend their campaigns if that happens. Oh my goodness, that would be something. Julie Kelly, her Substack, Declassified with Julie Kelly. She's the author of the book January 6th: How Democrats Used the Capitol Protest to Launch a War on Terror Against the Political Right. Julie, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy on the AM 560 The Answer mobile app. Just text the word app to 64636 to download the app today.
There are more than 50 million people enslaved in the world today. Most of them are women and children.
They lock you in cellars or in rooms with no windows. 95% of girls that are born in the brothels remain trapped in the brothels for the rest of their lives.
SOS International is working to make freedom possible for these women and kids. And with your help, today can be the day another victim comes into freedom.
By the hundreds, we are saving those girls and bringing them to a secure place, a place that is a safe home for them to grow in.
Just $150 makes freedom possible for a trafficking victim. It provides shelter, food, counseling, everything they need to start a new life. Make freedom possible now. Visit 560theanswer.com/SOS. Every day that goes by is another day of suffering and abuse. But you can change it now. You can make today the day of freedom and rescue. Learn how you can bring freedom now at 560theanswer.com/SOS.
You can shed that fat and be slimmer for the summer. No more wearing cover-ups or T-shirts in the pool. NJ Diet will help you the natural way. No shots, no hormones, no surgery. You'll lose a contractually guaranteed 20 to 40-plus pounds in only 40 days with NJ Diet. They use your hair, saliva, and blood work, along with bioenergetic scans to personalize natural solutions and supplements that get your body into the fat-burning zone so you can finally lose the weight. Then NJ Diet uses DNA info to help you keep it off. Best of all, it's contractually guaranteed. You're fully supervised the entire time to make sure you're burning fat, not just losing water. And you even get Dr. T's personal email and phone number. Dr. T, Dr. Turovets, he is the founder of NJ Diet. NJ Diet has locations close by in Skokie and Oak Brook, or is available from home with live online video consultations. Call 855-5-NJ-DIET or schedule your consult today at njdiet.com. That's njdiet.com.
Balance of Nature, changing the world one life at a time.
My son was saying, Mom, why are you paying so much for this? The supplement store has the exact same thing. And I said, no, they don't. You know, because he was telling me that they have similar products as Balance of Nature. But then when he came over to my house and he looked at the label of the Balance of Nature about all the, ingredients and everything, he realized, oh yeah, this is a superior product.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. This week only, we're extending our special travel offer. Right now, get $25 off your first order as a preferred customer, plus a free fruits and veggies travel set with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Call 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and Amy, let's end on a high note.
Oh, yeah, I'd love high notes.
Jordan Love is the new Aaron Rodgers. He's replacing Aaron Rodgers up there in Packerland. Jordan Love, Utah State, isn't that where he's out of? Yeah. He gave an interview, talking about the upcoming season stuff. It's time to start thinking about the NFL. Arlington Heights Bears, Green Bay Packers.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Love was asked, hey, what's that inscription on the bracelet thing you're wearing?
And nothing changes on you. What's that bracelet say?
I am second.
I am second, meaning?
Meaning God is first. I am second. It's a nice little daily reminder. Kind of, I look at it as a way to put others first, put God first. Life's not always about you. Every day, sometimes people get caught up in their own lives. Sometimes it's a nice little reminder to have.
Oh, my God, I'm in love with Jordan Love.
Yeah.
That's a real man, ladies, in case you're looking for one.
Life's not all about you. Boy, that's a wake-up call.
Especially from somebody in the NFL.
Always the last to know there. No, that's very interesting. It looks like a sharp young guy, and he's got a good arm. We'll see. I mean, Favre to Rodgers to Love. We'll see. Not that I'm not rooting for Justin Fields, but I'm just saying.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much for making us part of your morning, part of your lives. We really appreciate each and every one of you. And thanks so much to Justin Kosick, our technical producer, and to Quinn McCarthy, our executive producer. We're back here bright and early tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. Now let's head straight into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
There will be a stronger pro-life law in Indiana beginning today. One teenage girl is dead, another wounded following a shooting on